Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Select Board meeting for August 12th, 2024. Present tonight for the Select Board is myself, Chairman Jason Broom, Vice Chairman Diane Gale, Clerk Doug Moglen, Chief Administrative Officer Nicole Parker, Assistant CAO Nadine Signoni, and Secretary Lisa Anderson, who's running our video down below. If we would, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Phelps, would you be so kind?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could, we're gonna start the meeting also with a moment of silence. The town lost a former town clerk poll worker, and she was a current member of the historical committee. Her name was Mrs. Linda McQuaid. So if we could just have a moment of silence. Thank you. You're gonna go right into it. First thing we're gonna start with is public comments. Does anyone in the audience that's present wish to speak on public comments? Seeing no takers, is there anyone on Zoom that is interested in speaking for public comment? Looks like we have no takers. There is one. If that is the case, unless somebody pops up, we are going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is going to be our introductions with our firefighter paramedic, Robert Velletri.
Did you do did you guys do the thing yet? Public comments.
Yes, but if you have a public comment, I will allow you to go back.
I do. It just connected me.
Okay. Could you state your name and address for the recording, please?
Sage Fury, 91 Granville Road, Southwick. This is a little long-winded, so I apologize in advance. This is coming from just me as a private citizen, no other person, organization, or government standing, commission, representative, or any affiliation to anything other than myself as a human being who loves my community. This is in response to the misrepresentation and misinformation discussed on July 22nd at video timestamp 1:47:25. I saw this meeting and frankly, I'm beyond disappointed in the select board. After the work that has gone on, you missed the point of Farm Day. Farm Day is a chance to bring education to the kids that go to our schools, the kids' families, and those without kids looking to experience farms and get an opportunity for knowledge and inspiration. Farm Day is about bringing farm awareness to everyone. It's getting all kinds of farming exposure, work ethics, processes, and growth, educating people as well as hopefully inspiring some to start their own farming futures. Bringing families and individuals out for a focused experience to enjoy the farms around them, our community as well as our fellow neighboring communities. Most of the farms around us are isolated due to the amount of land they have. We're trying to get these farms known so they don't fall into the shadows, forgotten and abandoned. We need to inspire growth or the industry we know will be lost. Farmers grow different crops, usually each year, to balance the nutrients in the soil, and you will find most farms have unique crops that others don't. The same goes for animals. Some have few while others have none. Fun facts, farmers own land inside and outside the town line. Farmers make most of their income selling their crops to markets and stores. We have farms who purchase from each other between the communities. Granville farmers actively work with Southwick farmers and vice versa. Our food pantry also provides for Granville and Holland. To correct the last meeting, it takes 8 minutes from Southwick Farms to Granville Scoop, 11 minutes from Town Hall to Granville Scoop. We have our schools provide education to Tolland, Granville, and Southwick. All these kids have friends and family from these different communities who also have farms. They are being taught how helping your community is a great thing, whether it's your direct or neighboring community. We also collect taxes from Granville and Holland for the schools. I find it troubling that we have multiple communities using the school, but you want to exclude those communities from community event participation where they literally run into their friends and family. The purpose is about education and getting a behind scenes look at how farms operate. Farm Day is only truly possible by the dedicated members of AgCom, EDC support, sponsors, donations, farmers themselves, and hardworking volunteers that make this possible. Might I add, not all volunteers are from Southwick. If you ever watch AgCom meetings, you will have seen all the discussions about the whole process. This includes asking all the town farmers how they would feel about including farms outside of town. Not only were they fine with it, but some also offered a spot on their property for a stand if that would help them be more a part of it. That's what a community is about. And what I love about our farmers, Open Farm Day is open to all farmers to join. We do not pick and choose. We will not brush people away. So heartbroken that all of you said you wanted to change our community for the better, but then worry about money over educational opportunities. We also have people coming from other communities outside of our school district. This extension can pull us further in and grab more interest from their side of the region, building more recognition to our town and event while giving some spotlight to our neighbors. Open Farm Day is trying to spread the awareness and need of farming where towns are lacking committees like us. We may inspire new generations to expand in their towns and get more active. Towns can share information they get for grants for our farmers as well as others. We also share underground waterways and soil passages. So if they make decisions like putting landfills near town line, it can have a negative impact. However, if we have a good relationship with them, they may reconsider compromising factors that could affect us. And that is Sage Fury, private citizen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sage. There are no further takers. I will now move on to the remaining business of the evening. Okay, we're gonna go back to our next item on the agenda is going to be the introductions with firefighter paramedic Robert Velletri, I'm sorry. Call Force firefighter EMT Benjamin Cleland and firefighter EMT Julia Noel for new appointments to the Southwick Fire Department. Were these new ones just given to us?
No, that was for TMC.
Okay. Just making sure. So, Chief?
Good evening. As you know, the town appropriated funding for 3 additional firefighter and paramedics with us this fiscal year. We had a total of 17 applicants. We administered an aptitude test, 16 of them. We then got down to a core of about 10 that sat for our panel interview, which was very involved, very good process. We got to know each one of the candidates pretty well. And the panel decided on the top 3. And those 3 are here this evening. Robert Velletri, Ben Cleland, who is currently a call force firefighter EMT with the department, and Julia Noel. Julia is currently in Hawaii, finishing up a contract position there. So I was hoping that you'd be gracious enough to meet her over Zoom. But I'd like to start with Robert Velletri. Robert?
All right. You're welcome to come up if you wish. You do not have to.
Thank you.
Robert Velletri, nice to meet you.
Hi, Doug Moglen. Nice to meet you.
Had surgery, so. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Diane Gill.
Robert
Thank you for
Velletri.
coming. Nicole Parker. Hi.
Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. Have a seat.
So Robert,
Pick the
tell
hard
us,
chair.
Yeah.
tell us about you and why you wanted to be a Southwick firefighter.
So. Thanks for inviting me, everybody. My name's Robert Velletri. I've been a paramedic for 15 years. Been a firefighter for 16 years. I grew up in Park Hampstead, Connecticut, not too far from here. And during my panel interview, I explained a little story, and I think it'll maybe ring true here. I was as a child, I was heading on vacation with my family, and we were coming up 202 through Southwick. and there was a motor vehicle collision, and my stepfather was a police officer and my mom was a nurse, so they stopped and were rendering aid and stuff like that. And then I had my first interaction with fire department where they like came and treated that person like, you know, very well and treated them like they were their own family member. And watching from a distance, I'm like, wow, that's something I'd want to be. So when the opportunity came to apply, I put in an application and put my best foot forward.
You have a very impressive resume.
Are you currently living in Watertown?
Yes, I live in Oakville.
And how did you find this opening?
So I'm always scanning for like, you know, different opportunities and stuff like that. And also I have a fiance and we're looking to like, you know, expand our family and try and find a place to put our roots. And, you know, this area is one place that I really like. So it popped up online and I'm like, we should go for
We like it too.
it.
Thank you.
So you plan to relocate to somewhere near this area?
Yeah, actually, my lease is up in December, and so we're already kind of starting to look because of the, you know, housing market and stuff like that, and rental markets right now, so we're trying to strategize now, but yes, so certainly move a little closer, yes.
Awesome. Your resume is very impressive, sorry.
No,
But
it's fine.
it did jump off the page to me that it's about an hour away from where
Yeah.
you are right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will do that.
Thank you. Save the tough questions for the next kid.
Second is a familiar face, Ben Cleland, who's been with Call Department for just over a year right now.
Good to see you, man.
Nice to see you, Ben.
Welcome back to the table.
Nicole Parker.
Well, you already answered the question I asked earlier, when about a year ago, so. You ready?
I'm ready.
I see you're adding on things to your certification and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have expected otherwise, so. So what's your ultimate goal when you get here?
So,
Well, you're here, but
the next step for me is going on to medic school, which I have, coming up in October. So I'll go through medic school and then I'll hopefully get cleared here at the department and, live a long career here.
Wonderful. That's what we like. Want to learn and grow with the department.
Well, we've been through it with this gentleman
Yes,
before.
we have. It's really a thank you.
We're
for
supposed
sticking
to
with
ask
us.
harder questions. and closer.
Yeah, I love it here.
Good.
well, we don't
Good to
actually
hear.
have to ask the other question today.
No, we can't.
No,
You already answered it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, you got.
And he lives in town, so it's not, the commute's not gonna kill
Right.
him. If you're late for work, though, we're gonna have to talk, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ben, we thank you very much. I'm very happy for you to see that you're progressing in the direction you wanted to and with us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in again.
Of course.
You bet.
Yeah. I remember you at that age too.
And our friend candidate, again, is Julia Noel. She's from Hamden, Mass, but currently in Hawaii. Should be probably showing some of the blanks of why she's there.
Hello, Julia, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so what makes you want to come to us?
First of all, thank you for accommodating me, letting me go on Zoom. So I'm from Hamden. I'm 22. Like the chief said, I've been in Hamden my whole life, so it really reminds me of Southwick. We border Connecticut, we border Somers, Connecticut. It's a small town. Southwick's a little bit bigger, but I always grew up with a really strong sense of community in my town. All through middle school, high school, after high school during COVID, I was still there working in my town. And I just really had a really strong sense of community there. And I actually joined my town department, which is also a combination department like Southwick. I joined that department because I was working a part-time job during COVID, after COVID, and I talked to a lot of people from my town, and I met a couple of firefighters and a couple of police officers from my community, and they made such a good impression on me. I was actually waitressing at the time, so they made such a good impression on me about their careers and how they got into what they do, that I was really inspired to join my department. And I would like to come to Southwick to continue to have that sense of community, which I really miss being out here in Hawaii. I don't have that. I know Hawaii, but I miss that. So I'd like to come to you guys and have a good community and make an impact, hopefully, on somebody else who was in my shoes once.
Very nice. Thank you for that. Ms. Gale?
How did you pick Southwick or know about this opportunity here?
So it was actually sent to me out here in Hawaii by somebody on my department in Hamden. They knew I was planning on coming back home, and he'd been sending me different places that were hiring, and most of them were too far away, bigger towns. I just really wasn't interested. So you guys stood out to me because it reminds me a lot of my town.
Excellent, excellent. I have to say, you have presented a great letter. You've addressed the human aspects of it in a very personal way, and it was a great letter.
Thank you.
Mr. Moon?
I'm continued to be surprised by the Hawaii Southwick connection. Not just this applicant, but we had another applicant for another position of recent that was also relocated here from Hawaii.
Yeah.
I have an employee that works for me that moved here from Hawaii.
Says something about us,
I guess, I mean, people would choose
Well, maybe
Southwick
not.
over Hawaii, so write it down. I don't know. But no, I think that's great. And, you know, your resume is great. And I think it speaks volumes that, you know, someone from your hometown department would send you a job application for Southwick while you're in Hawaii. And present that as a kind of a Hobson's choice, but okay, great. Welcome to Southwick.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
very much, Leah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for zooming in.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. I appreciate it.
So our next item on the agenda. Yes, this is true. I'm sorry, my bad.
Acknowledgement.
Yes.
to hire the
Acknowledging
subject
this. Subject to-
I just make a motion.
I would be looking for a motion based on the recommendation of the chief and his panel to appoint the following three individuals to the fire department. Robert Velitri, or I screwed it up again, didn't I?
Velitri.
Yeah,
to Electric.
Benjamin Cleveland and Julia Noel, pending the normal backgrounds, although I think some of them are already there. So at least one, right? And so on.
Sure.
So
I'll
I'll be
make
looking
that
for a motion.
motion. Yep, make that motion.
Subject to the yada yadas.
I'm not gonna
I'll
say
second
it.
it.
That's somebody else's terms. But roll call vote. Jason Perone, aye.
Thank you. I
Doug Mogul, yes.
Alrighty. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. We've been doing some research on this. We are going to strike this from the agenda because based on our research, we do not actually have to appoint employees unless they have a length of term and they are due up for a re-up is the way I guess, like a contract or renewal for a contract. So based on that research, we will be striking that from our agenda. And the next item we are gonna go on is the cannabis application interviews. So.
While we're digging that up,
it's page 26.
Chief, when does, Ms. No, I want to mispronounce her name as well.
Noel?
Yeah, no, when is she coming back from Hawaii?
Within the next 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on, she's got a contract out there for employment right now. She's notified them that she's leaving, and then the rest of it is just a matter of collecting her belongings and shipping and traveling back home.
We're gonna start with tonight, our top three based on the RFI and the scoring formatting in no particular order. Our top three came out as Pioneer Valley Trading Company, Cannabis Hut, and Haven. So based on our discussion, the last meeting, we decided that we were going to interview only the top three. So again, in no particular order, I am going to call Cannabis Hut up to the table for interview.
Is there a list of questions or anything, Mr. Chairman, or is this kind of free form?
It is based on each application.
Okay.
And what you
Did he?
threw out.
Good. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
Hi, Doug Mogul.
Chairman, how are you? Good, how are you? How are you?
You are.
Timmy Brooks, I'm sorry.
Diane.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi. Nicole Parker.
Amra, nice to meet you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Did we use up
And you
all our
are
minutes
Rachel.
with the introduction?
Yes, and this concludes our interview, right? Thank you. We have enough chairs?
I guess let's check on first.
Oh, yeah, those are the trick chairs.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
All right, so my questions are gonna be, I have one. And it's gonna be very easy for everybody. Why do you want to open up a cannabis establishment here in Southwick?
We would like to be one of the candidates that we select for the cannabis dispensary because we are very experienced. Actually, we'll do this one.
That work?
Yeah.
You don't have to yell into it. It should pick you up pretty good.
Okay, we would like to be considered because we have the experience as a cannabis dispensary operator. We have a location in Springfield, Massachusetts. The name of that store is Zaza Green in Springfield. It's been open for a little over a year. It's the second busiest dispensary in Springfield. We have a team here, which is my son, Tom, who is come from regulatory industry. He was one of the cage operators at MGM Casino before they had some layoffs. Kamaljeet has extensive experience in retail, restaurant, service, healthcare. This is Tom's wife, Rachel, who you may have noticed is expecting. And they are also looking at possibly living in Southwick. They're thinking of relocating from Springfield. So the opportunity of cannabis is everybody thinks that cannabis is something different. It's really just a retail store. And you have to make sure that you have people in place who are responsible, who understand the guidelines and are willing to become part of the community. And I'll speak on being part of the community. A lot of cannabis owners don't get involved in the community. And if you were to go to Springfield and ask how involved are we, it's extensive. We sponsored 10 families, even before we were open, 10 families for Thanksgiving and 10 for Christmas. And we asked, we don't give the checks to anybody. We give it to the neighborhood council. And we ask the neighborhood council to distribute those. The only preference that we ask is that they choose families of single parents with children. We've been involved with the East Springfield Neighborhood Council, and we sponsored a radar sign for them, speed radar sign. I believe it was around $6,000. On the lower end, we've helped neighbors who cars won't start, and we'll buy them batteries. And it's unlike me to, I'm not bragging, I'm just trying to give you an indication of how involved we get. And it's, we really enjoy getting involved. We sponsor musicians to come into the store and they play, for an hour. Could be someone from one of the well-known bands who comes in, or it could be a young person over the age of 21 who's looking to get some experience. We engage with artists. We allow artists to hang artwork on the walls. And if any artwork is sold, 100% of the proceeds go back to the artist. We've been very involved for a long time. We sponsor families who are in need of medical equipment, and we'll make anonymous donations and things like that that we hear through the community. In the RFP, you'll notice that we have an advisory committee from two women from Southwick who are well-known and held in high regard. They would kind of direct us as to who we should be donating to. But we want to get involved in the fireworks, the open pantry. We open up our facility in Springfield during heat waves for elderly people. We also have offered to allow shots to be given for the flu shot or for COVID, which comes from our healthcare. Rachel would be offering 2 times a year dietitian recommendations for people who are struggling with weight or diet. I mean, I could go on and talk. Probably heard me talk about everything but cannabis, because we're a wellness center that happens to sell cannabis. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any else want to speak or on that? No?
You live in Springfield?
No, I'm from Westchester County, New York.
From where?
New York.
New York.
Westchester
Okay,
County.
so will you
Westchester
be-
County?
Yes,
will you be involved in the management of this location?
yes.
So-
It's, I do day-to-day operations. He updates me all the time, and then I visit the dispensaries twice a week,
She's up at the dispensary at least twice a week from
New
New
York.
they stay over, they get hotels, they're very, very involved with the day-to-day.
You have to be.
Yeah, you have to be.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to talk about your financial projections in detail, but it didn't seem that the number of employees you were projecting and the rate of pay came out exactly right. But on the other hand, I don't know what's in other, and is that owner's compensation in other? Is that where there's more salary information?
What is the question specifically?
When I looked at your projections, I looked at what your compensation for employees
For
was.
employees? Yeah,
And if I just take the number of employees you project at $21 or $22, it doesn't come out quite right.
Oh, it would probably be
Are they somewhere else?
it would probably be a manager's salary. If we have the hourly rate and then we put a manager and assistant managers usually get put on.
That are in
salary.
a different line item?
so that the projected employees would be 5 to 8 full-time employees and 4 to 6 part-time
Mhm.
employees.
Okay.
Definitely having 3 to 4 on-site daily. But the owners typically are not drawing a salary out of that. There's a very high turnover in cannabis. Where typically a business might be a 30% turnover, in cannabis, it's about sometimes 50 to 60%.
Wow.
Yeah, and we would give preference to any
I
local,
think you might need to speak up.
we would be giving preference to any Southwick resident. And we offer a training program, so we offer them, anyone that's interested in learning from the ground up. We'd like to teach them starting as maybe a bud tender, then go into a wholesale manager. And we again, work with the community to provide them with an opportunity to change some of their lives. And we love the location that we're looking at because it's right now, as you're very familiar with, it's kind of not up to its best standard. And would like to convert that into a farmhouse type style, general store with a porch on the front and having music there. And providing some other opportunities inside, similar to Springfield, where we offer guest speakers. We offer a YouTube channel or that advertises interviews. We offer yoga and we've had a comedy night. All of those fundings go back into the community.
Why do you suppose the turnover is so high in this particular, is this retail in general or in cannabis retail?
Retail in general, because, you'd be surprised how many people don't realize that they have to show up on a Saturday.
Nothing will surprise me anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, you mentioned that the turnover is high. Is that in cannabis retail or just retail as a category in
I think
general?
both, but higher in cannabis.
Than even just general retail?
Yes.
Any idea? Why?
Uh, the pool of applicants that it attracts are somewhat different. But again, we have people that if they're an hour late, they don't call in, they don't respond to text messages, they don't reply to phone call. One person showed up 2 days after they were supposed to be there and pretended it was nothing wrong and didn't think it was a big deal.
That guy works for you too.
Yeah. I think we both know him. Yeah.
Any of my coworkers are listening? No, it was just an interesting comment because, that's certainly a challenge and, you know, maybe I was trying to drive it if that's an organizational issue or if it's general. I'm certainly gonna ask the same question against the other applicants as well, if that's a cannabis retail particular issue, or that's an issue with, you know, your particular operation or what? I'm interested to hear your perspective, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll have less of a higher turnover in Southwick because part of the application, we submitted letters of support from neighbors. So if we're coming into your house, we want you to know that we're being vouched for by people who have lived here, who own businesses. And many of them have said they would be interested in either applying or knew a neighborhood person would be interested in a job.
That's a great marketing tool to include in your package.
That's who we are. It's not marketing. But thank you.
You have any report?
I don't have my package in front of me, so and it all is a big blur at this point, so
I got them behind me if you want them.
may I?
Yeah.
Well, while you're digging,
Please.
on the location renovation, what do you think has to be done in there, and is your timeline realistic?
For the project that we had in Springfield, which was 7,500 square feet, it was ripped out and rebuilt and designed in 5 months. It was delayed by 1 month because there was a problem with the floor. Someone had jumped the line on the construction and it caused a delay of about a month. But we think a concern is not the construction. Our concern is how much of a delay might be caused on the CCC side. Because they're talking about possibly a receivership, a rudderless ship, so the application goes in. Our attorney, Sarah Grant, is on the line, on Zoom. Because we felt it's important to have our entire team here. She might be able to speak about what she anticipates for delays, but we put some padding in there, but we think it's very realistic.
Hi, yeah, good evening. I'm assuming you guys can hear me okay. Great.
Could you say your name and?
Yes,
address
of course. Yep, my name is Sarah Grant. My office is on State Street in Boston, but I'm an attorney at Smith, Costello and Crawford, and I focus primarily in regulatory cannabis law. So to your question about timing, the process has gone through some changes in the past few months in terms of the new HCA review during the application process. But I do think that the projected timeline we had still it stands, and I think it would be about 2 to 3 months, sort of to provisional, and then construction and all of that would dictate when those next benchmarks can be met. And I actually had some thoughts about your question relative to turnover, and I just wanted to mention that. So part of the process with hiring is to run a background check because there's certain background check requirements for working in this industry, and because that process can take a week to 2 weeks, occasionally somebody will apply for the job, but then while they wait for the background check to come back, maybe they find another job, maybe they just change their mind about the opportunity. And so that's another reason why I think there tends to be a lot of turnover in the industry for employees.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Logan?
Yeah, I was correct in my thought. I just wanted to look it up. I went back and looked at the, there was a bunch of the identical letter, with different folks that had signed on to it and addressed it.
Yes.
So that was the one. I'm gonna beg to differ. I found that it's the most unappealing part of the application process, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
As, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that it's bad, if I had gotten 8 letters from folks that really thought this was a great idea and they had put their name to it and put their thoughts down versus they had been given text and put their address on it and signed it, I find that less of a positive to me. It's just my opinion personally, but.
The deadline, and the turnaround time.
Oh, I get it, but just my frank observation as I was going through all of these, I didn't give it as much.
I just thought the knowledge of the parties was an important piece. that
Oh,
they
absolutely. No, I get it. I
reflected to
just was,
us. The format, yes,
yeah.
agreed, could be
correct.
time allowing.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Ms. Gill, anything further? No, I said, like, I had my one question. That's all I got.
So bottom line for me is, I guess, he kind of asked it, but what puts you, now that we've kind of talked about who are the top 1, 2, 3 here, or, of the applicants that we have? Why you? Why this application and this tenant and this location with this team? That's gonna make you successful.
A couple of things. One is the experience. The other is being fully funded, not being involved in any type of litigation or lawsuits that could delay a project. In cannabis, a lot of people run out of money, and that's what causes a delay. We are fully funded, and I think we have about 1.4 million available. Construction costs are estimated to be about 300,000, and we would be a good neighbor. You can check any of our references if you'd like. You're welcome to come out to the store. The deadline we're giving or the construction projection we're giving you is accurate. It may be built much sooner than that. The delay would be on the bureaucracy side. We want to become part of the community and we want to be helpful. The attraction for us, Southwick, is being so close to Connecticut and also being close to Westfield. And we think it's a great community. We would abide by your rules and regulations, your hours. And we have our advisory committee. If a neighbor has a concern or a complaint, they can talk to them and they talk to us. We pick up the litter every morning. We pick up any litter at night. We keep our location very clean and very curb appeal because that's a reflection on us.
And what is your involvement in the Springfield operation?
My involvement is I'm retiring from Westfield State University. So I will be volunteering for my son and for Kamaljit and Rachel. Have been involved in many different roles in my life. I was an insurance agent. I was an elected official. I was an advisor to some higher level elected officials. And now I'm in higher education, helping them locate money at the state and federal money for students over Westfield State. Graduated from STCC, went to AIC, so not a brainiac by any stretch of the imagination, but love my community.
You're not currently involved in the Springfield operation,
No,
but you are
yes,
daily.
Yes, yeah, I do the day-to-day everything from the wholesale and inventory to the staff scheduling. All the compliance regulations that we have to hold up to.
And you will also be managing
I'm gonna
full-time in Southwick.
come to Southwick would be the full-time one for us.
Mhm.
And we have, we're onboarding a manager at the Springfield location now.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that would be
Okay.
here full-time.
Good.
We actually are looking to move here. We have a tour on Friday.
Yeah.
We will see.
We'll need more bedrooms.
I just have one more question, and it's just for my own edification. Why would you have a different name in Southwick than the one you're using in Springfield? Instead of having, okay, we have a location here and here, and we have this one here.
Separate silos. Always have separate silos for different companies, LLC or CCC. Just to keep, just for structural purposes.
100% understand that,
Yeah.
but will this facility be called Cannabis Hut here in Southwick?
Cannabis
And
Hut.
you'll still have Zasha Green and Springfield?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I actually like the name better too. That's another big part.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that. I don't know
That's
what
really
the
good.
answer's gonna be. That's why I asked. Sure.
It's a little catchier. It's like Pizza Hut.
I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah.
We're all going there.
Yeah, right.
All right,
Okay, I don't have any other
yeah,
questions
nothing
at this
further,
point.
Mr. Mobley?
That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys all very much for
Thank
coming
you.
in. and
Thank
meeting
you
us.
for your
Thank you
time.
for having
I
us.
appreciate- We all appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
That's okay. I'll do it.
What's that? Always come to your back a little bit.
All right, so for next candidate, for interview is going to be Pioneer Valley Trading Company.
Continue.
Did you?
Can we, yeah. Did we resolve or get an answer to that other question that was raised? The distance one.
Oh. Technically GIS
There's
is
no
not
question.
official, so we have.
There's
to-
no question. It is well within the distance required. There's no question about that.
This one.
It's the.
So no, so should I ask the question out loud? Because I don't want people wondering what we're talking about here, but
Absolutely.
it was a fair question. So please, I want to introduce yourself. Sit down and I'll explain. Sir, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah.
Hello? Oh, hi. Hello?
And I apologize for not bringing it up before the first interview, and it really is, I don't think it's gonna have a ton of bearing until we hear from council what that's gonna mean. But, it was brought to my attention or our attention that our bylaw has certain site distances within it. And 500 feet from this, 300 feet from that, 1,000 feet from another establishment. Well, when you filled out your applications, everybody was great. However, a couple of the applicants that are in the room, if two of them are approved, they conflict with each other on the 1,000 feet. And we're frankly waiting for a legal opinion on how do you resolve that, because one opinion is, and we're creating a hardship. Because the hardship doesn't exist. It didn't exist when you entered into either a purchase and sale or a lease agreement for the real estate, because you were free and clear. But for another applicant applied for another location that also was free and clear of any encumbrance in their application. You look at the diagrams with the charts, and even GIS isn't official, but this is not even gut shot close, right? If two of the applicants make it, and we decide to negotiate a host agreement within those two, they're within 1,000 feet of each other. How do you reconcile that? Now, I've spoken to the planning board chair, just because I don't think it's even within our purview, because it's a zoning issue. It's not a permitting issue, but we don't want to create one here, so we are still going to work through that angle on how that's going to work out. So just to be completely transparent, hey, we haven't done this before, so we're going through this process, and I certainly didn't think of it as part of the RFI. How could you know where the other applicants are going to be? You have a map that exists on the day you apply, and it's correct now. So how we're gonna reconcile that, I don't know the answer to.
I had the same thought when I was looking through it. I was like, some of these applications, if this one in the middle gets, it's gonna be next to the other two.
Correct. And one of the applications, if I recall, because of the nature of how it was applied for, didn't have a location. So how you couldn't even know as you apply and say, okay, unless you happen to have a building in the middle of a field that was 1,000 feet from anything, that would be the only sure way of assuring, great use of the word.
Yeah.
The only way of assuring yourself that it would be impossible for you to conflict. So we'll have to work through that and reconcile that as we go along here,
Just so you know.
just so you.
We understand.
So we're gonna start off with the question I asked before, and the only question I'm asking, why you guys want to open a cannabis shop in Southwick, and what can you do for us?
So we've been in this business we've started the opportunity of trying to invest in cannabis probably 3 years ago. We got our dispensary up in Westfield. But we're townies in Southwick, been through and through. My family's worked in Southwick for 50 years. I'm at the Comark building there. So I've lived here, I own property here, I pay my taxes, we have a lot of a development property we've done here. We have a scholarship to the Southwick High School for $3,000 a year we've donated to the Southwick High School, probably for almost 20 years at this point. That's gonna be in perpetuity. It's my grandfather's when he passed. But we're community people. We worked with a food pantry, and when the opportunity came up and we're already in that business, that there'd be a mistake not to try to go for it, in my office.
And on the community side of things, I served for just about 10 years on Westfield Fire Department. Did a ton of calls and stuff in Southwick, as you're aware.
I recognize it.
Yeah, so it's always been a huge thing. As a young kid, I was in Troop 338 over at the racetrack through the American Legion, and that's where I got my Eagle Scout. So I've just been doing things in Southwick in the community for pretty much since I could walk. So this is an opportunity to do what we're doing in Westfield in my town, and it's an awesome opportunity. So we definitely couldn't let this opportunity go by.
Well, I already have a rental deal with my brother-in-law and my daughter for a room, so I can always find residency in Southwick.
My brother was here.
But I do live in Westfield. The reason I thought it was a good deal was he brought up 338. We're big on veterans, so we're big on veterans hiring over at Comark, as well as fellow minorities. We want to make sure that we always hire the appropriate people, the right people, and ones that we're really interested in working. And we have found great people from Springfield, Southwick areas that meet the requirements for everything we've done. But the 338 has really got a soft spot for me with veterans. So one of the things we want to do is work a lot with them, because I think that they need specific needs relative to potentially medicinal. And that's something that we wanted to pick up in this facility that we have put money down on, that kind of are acquiring. So that was a big one for us, because with the closing of HECA, that really left a big opening. We've heard a lot of traffic in the papers and on the internet about a number of people being very upset about that closing. They now have to either go to Springfield or all the way up to Northampton or East Hampton, Southampton. Anyway, it's a longer drive, much longer, and if you have to go through, like I just did, to go through the exit 3 traffic get here from northern to Westfield, it could be a pain. But those are the good reasons, and that we've got a lot of experience. We have a great consultant that Michael, being a vet, makes the application process easier for us. We go to the top of the heap, and we know a lot of people in the industry now, so everything's been going smooth. We've been running a facility over there now for 8 months, and we started turning profits after 5. So we kept the cost down. We're moving forward. We have enough funds to open this, modify the building, and get started. So we're ready to go. We could probably be up and running, I think, inside of 4 or 5 months.
The building we
After the inspections, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my first questions, was how's it going in Westfield?
Great.
It's great.
Better
Yeah.
than expected.
What was your biggest learning curve there?
Biggest learning curve was how to establish and capture market share with 2 veteran stores that have been operating for so long. It's a highly saturated market to begin with, industry as a whole. So you really have to do small minor tweaks and really figure out what resonates with your guests. One of the things that really sets us apart from the we'll call it the Vibe and the other 2 of our competitor stores is
You know, we aren't bombarding you at the door with bud tenders. It's a much more relaxed environment, in our dispensary itself. And ownership, I'm there about 110 hours a week. And it really goes a long way with the guests knowing that, you know, it's not owned by some, you know, corporation from out west or, you know, it really resonates with the people of Westfield, supporting a store that, it is doing that kind of business. As far as our menu goes too, that's another large, piece of the puzzle, in gaining market share is, supporting those smaller companies and offering your guests a variety in town rather than the same, you know, 5, 6 large corporate companies that are, you know, flooding the market with a ton of different products. Where we really take the time and putting the effort into researching the cultivators, the product manufacturers, and who has kind of a niche feel to their company. We go out and visit their grows personally, to make sure everything's, you know, clean, on the up and up. And we're very careful on who we bring into our store as far as for a selection of the guests. And I think that has done wonders for us too, in bringing the variety to the city, as well as a different option. And we get along great with the other 2 stores. I mean, I have a really good relationship with one of them, from the start. But it is, you know, it's very apparent that there was a hole to fill in Westfield with smaller operators supply. And that's what we've been doing. And we've been seeing a 10 to 15% biweekly increase since. So we're going to keep doing it. And
You're gonna use that model here?
that exact model. Yep. It's just, it worked so well for us, that there are other more senior stores that are kind of adopting the same kind of tactics on their menu, building when they're doing their ordering. I have a bunch of friends out in the Northampton, East Hampton area with stores, and they're, you know, dropping off some of these multi-state operators and bringing on 2 or 3 smaller producers that the guests have been seeing in our store, and they're doing well in sales now for that. And we get a lot of good feedback from these cultivators too. And the smaller producers giving them a chance on the shelf in a big city. Cause it's usually they're fighting tooth and nail to get that shelf space against these big guys. So it's really important to us just as a team, to keep that ball rolling, and it has resonated beautifully with our guests. So just the small local, you know, underdog feel, I think has really done well for us.
Are your other 2 competitors there in town also medicinal, or either of them?
One of them was, they've just recently closed on Monday. So there is no medical in the city of Westfield. And I really wish we could in our facility in Westfield. We just do not have the vault space for it. The way it works is in the vault, you need a completely separate SKU
So
item.
that would differentiate your Westfield from your Southwood.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
The building in Southwick here has significantly more floor space
Yeah.
than we got out of Dunkin' Donuts that we acquired in Westfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people still stop by for coffee.
Yeah. You would be amazed at how many people
My
still
joke
think it's a
was about
Dunkin'.
the drive-through window, right?
We kept that available to us in case they turn out with drugs.
When it was going, you guys were going through your process, that was something that was joked about quite a bit. Like,
Yeah.
keep the drive-through window.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll work, but. You see?
Oh, I wouldn't give this CCC any ideas.
Well, I don't wanna give them anything.
They'll change those rules in
Them,
5 seconds. They've done it the
DPU,
whole time.
keep going.
You guys have your own grow as well, correct? Or you're working towards that?
We have a building at this particular point, but it's under commitment to sell. We were trying to get into the process of building, but I think we took and we were going to have our dispensary in it because it was the only place that we could do in Westfield. So one of the things that happened was the Dunkin' Donuts became available. It was a quick fix and we could get it up and running. So we moved forward on that. We continued on with the building. But we found out that the financing, that was just COVID hit us, everything hit us at the wrong time. And then the financing for all of the lighting, just, you know, there were a lot of people that loved to lend you money at 25% with a 10% VIG down. So not knowing where the money was coming from because you can't borrow from banks. We weren't really sure that these were good terms, long term.
So we struggled for a while, but we finally decided to sell that facility. So right now it's under contract.
Yeah,
So
we are
we do
looking-
not have growth.
Yeah.
We got plans on growing in a smaller venue than what we had tried to bite off to begin with.
In Southwick.
So you may.
And that's
we
another
will.
thing we'll be talking,
We will.
if we were awarded, we'll be talking with you guys on taking that cultivation license and applying it into the town of Southwick for location change. So,
It expands margins too much not to do.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very much worth it. And the challenge was also when we initially costed out the strategy for actually doing a grow in that facility, the number was X. 2 years later, it was 40-50% higher. And the return on investment would have been 7 years just to get your money back. And at that point, we decided that it probably wasn't the best avenue to continue to go forward with it. That was 3 months ago, we made the decision, I think, or 2 months ago, right around the same time we submitted this application. Westfield Gas and Electric came up about a month ago and said, we want the building, and it was just under what we put into it. So I think we came to the conclusion that we cut ties and start over, take that money, buy this building, and do a grow, get a greenhouse in.
Okay. I was just curious, you know, you were
Yeah,
talking about how your,
Yep.
you know, where your source of supply is, and then I remember from the application that there was
There was a-
plans for that to kind of be a little bit more, even more self-sufficient than some of the others, right?
Right,
And,
yep.
We want to be.
that's our goal is vertically integrated. That's always been the goal.
Yeah.
So this was a smart pivot on our end, just because of, you know, the market, where things are headed in the industry on the cultivation side. And just kind of making it happen in town. And it's definitely a goal of ours to do that. We're not by any means abandoning the ship. And if we had done and put the dispensary down in that location where the grow facility was on Madeiros and Westfield, it would not have done well down there.
This
You
is
know,
right off the main drag.
this one's right on Southampton Road in Westfield, right on the main, so we had to take about 1.7 million and divert it to that project.
Sure.
Where, as Richard said, now we're profitable there now, and comfortably paying bills there, so, it was a, you know, a thorn in the side, but it was definitely a smart pivot on the business end of things, so.
Understood.
Yep.
Thank you.
So your revenues are projected a little bit, not a little bit, they're far more aggressive than others' projections that were. How does that compare to your Westfield starts?
Well, if you take out the medical component of it, it'd be similar, because the medical, we believe, will be more than 50% of the revenue.
And that was my next question. Okay.
So with that in mind, and being the lack of medical in this area, especially this close to Connecticut, we believe there'll be a big impact on revenues because of that. That's the big number. If it wasn't if you remove the medical from the equation, it would be in line with what we would see from Westfield, which would be over $4 million a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking about your competitors.
no
Did you have medical competition? Okay.
There's a big hole right now, in the market for medical in this geographic area. So you'll see people coming from far and wide coming into, any medical facility that pops up. I wish we could do it in Westfield. We just don't have the square footage available on that lot. It would have been nice, but, you know, we made do with what we had over there. It was a small little Dunkin' Donuts and, but the medical component in this town, I think would be a big success.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
I was waiting for Mrs. Gale.
Oh, go ahead.
So with the closure of the place in Westfield, do you think that's symptomatic, or do you think that was an issue with that particular dispensary and how they ran their business? Because they were doing both, and you'd think that they would have had a leg up first vis-a-vis others, and it didn't play out for them. So I'd just be interested in your take on that.
Yeah, and
I don't think we really have a lot of firsthand knowledge on what transpired and what happened, other than what we've heard generally, and I hate to say things that have been generalized and put out there because you don't know what's true. It's almost like politics. You don't know what's true, it's not. So we do know that they had some bumps in the road starting out where they had to replace a lot of equipment in their facility, which was a big cost. We do know that then they had some problems and issues with mold because that was in the the television and in the newspaper. So we have to assume that that was true. And I think that hurt them more than they thought it would. That's all I can say because I don't know about their financial position. I figured that they had to be pretty heavily in debt to do everything that they did.
So from more of a macro perspective, you think that
I think it's
one or
gonna
two
be,
dispensaries in the town of Southwick are gonna be okay?
Yes, I think that was an isolated thing up there in Westfield.
Yeah, I mean, they were a grow too. And they couldn't keep up with the grow, so they had somebody come in. Didn't they have somebody come in to do the grow? I thought they did.
And they were renting space
But
and
then they couldn't. That agreement went down. And then everything.
I don't think it's a macro issue. I think the reality is that the revenues may slide eventually at some point when it becomes more customized and you actually see more of them. It's gonna be more like a liquor store thing, where you have 6 liquor stores in the town at some point, probably. Maybe not right now, talk 20 years from now.
So maybe not being located next to the state police barrack is a good idea.
Also,
I didn't want to
Also-
say it. One of the things I've heard from
I don't know, that may
my
have been
personal
impact,
experience up there was the location. Those did not help.
also pulling out of it was a nightmare.
Yeah, only got.
that's one thing about,
I'll tell you
Pulling out of
what,
there.
if I have to go right in a cruiser to be able to do it, then it's problematic. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
they originally had wanted to hire details and
They did have a detail for a while when the work was with work going on the bridge.
we wouldn't do it. It was too dangerous.
wow,
Really, nobody would take that. It was,
It
when
was.
the traffic gets going,
Yeah.
I don't have to say anything, you guys.
Yeah.
So, but that was one of the, not that it's my opinion matters on that, but I do know that that was one of the big things, other than what you spoke about. So,
all the proposed locations in Southwick from all of us applicants, though, you could see a mile down the road either side. It's all, beautiful. So there's no hidden drives or anything wacky. So they got from the DOT and traffic standpoint, I think either whoever you choose, I think it's gonna work out well for the town on that side of things.
Good, thank you.
Anything else you wanna throw in?
The only thing I'll add at the very end is like, we are community people. We've lived in town lived in town. We worked in town forever. I eat lunch here every day. I visit all the different towns. I used to go to Murphy's for soup to have lunch and with all the old guys that hear all the town politics. And now it's over at the Notch. We go there and you listen to stuff.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we fully intend on committing to the town of Southwick that either whatever happens here anyway. So, I built communities here. We build the Greens of Southwick. My family's intimately enrolled in that. I have 4 family members over there, 2 aunts and my sister and my brother are over there. So I got a lot of family in Southwick. So once we're out of the debt of having a new building, paying down all that debt, we're fully intending on being a massive contributor to this town, either through events with Wally Park or doing it with the food pantry. We've donated food pantry with Comark for years. We've always done that, especially when we were much larger. We were able to do much better than we are now. But we fully intend on doing that. And, obviously we'll continue to help the police department and everything in that regard as well. So it's part of the process of being a good community servant. So.
And I will say 2 things. Number one is that we were the first industrial company to build a building over on the industrial park on Hudson Drive. And that was, say, listen, they had people come in, Lieutenant Governor from the state came in, they helicoptered in, all that good stuff. And then, of course, Wally came in and built everything in the world in the back of us, but we were the first company to come in here and make a commitment to Southwick. That was in 1978. I remember that because I got to be the project manager of building that building. And the second thing is, my father passed away in 2000. We initiated the scholarship fund in 2002. It was Richard E. Fiore Memorial Scholarship. Then I think it's become the Fiore Family Memorial Scholarship. And he's right, it's $3,000 a year, I think, maybe 2,500, but it is in perpetuation now. So we no longer have to contribute to that. It will always be there for 2,500 unless we want to contribute more money, make it grow. And that might be one of the things we want to do.
Yeah, without that.
And yeah, I can tell you, I spent a lot of money in this town in terms of lunches, dinners, and, well, just drinking. Business meetings, you understand.
Let it go.
And that too.
all set, sir?
I am, sir.
Ms. Gill?
I think I'm all set.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
I made these guys get dressed up.
It's hard to pull off a basic tie, but you've done a good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do too.
All right, and that leaves us with the third and final candidate for today of Haven. Or applicant, not candidates. I usually saying.
I'm Charles. Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi, Doug.
Nice to meet you. Jason, nice to meet you.
This is here.
Diane.
Diane. very
How
nice
are
to
you?
meet you. Doing the pound.
Hi.
Welcome
back.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll take the uncomfortable seat here.
You know, the best job in the world, be their toner salesman.
Armor, yes,
Are
are they really? The hot seat.
Like I said, I've got the one question and the one question.
Okay.
only. Why do you guys want to put a cannabis shop here in town and what can you do for Southwick?
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and share a little bit about Haven, an organization that I've been involved with for a number of years, and with these two gentlemen sitting here next to me. So really, the reason that Haven is here today to interview for this store is from these gentlemen right here. Mark Dupuy, we put in the application kind of his extensive ties to the local community here, as well as the broader community. Mark's been a personal friend as well as a business friend going back over a decade now. We have experience in California's medical marijuana industry, transitioning into adult use. Mark is a very capable cultivator. And when this opportunity came up, he knew instantly who he would want to partner with, Haven, because of our deep level of expertise in operating retail stores, particular focus on the medical marijuana aspects, and really being able to develop a store and a program that engages within the local community, which I'd be happy to get into here shortly. Brian is a associate of Mark's here with even deeper ties to Southwick, and was very excited at the opportunity to partner with us. So I think really what we present here is a unique blend of, I heard, West Coast corporate operators or something like that. And certainly I know that there is some of that appearance to what we do. However, we have a really small ownership team at Haven. It's myself and a couple other folks. And in California, we have to do very similar processes like what you guys are looking for here, which is to develop a plan about not just how you're going to operate a store compliantly within the laws, sort of like the barrier to the price of admission is what we call it, but how do you do so in a way that really respects the local environment? And I'll let these guys talk a little bit more about their ties to Southwick, and then I'll share a little bit more about how we're a little bit uniquely positioned to kind of leverage our deep level of operational expertise and marry it with a lot of the local things that we do to really respect the communities that we operate in. Mark, do you want to share a little bit about?
Yeah, I went to Westfield High School, grew up in Westfield. My grandfather actually gave each of his kids a piece of land on his farm, so I grew up on the orchard there. It's always been a passion of mine to be on a farm and to cultivate and that sort of thing. After high school, I moved to Berkshire Ave for a couple of years. I rented a home with some friends from the Arnolds. And I just love Southwick. I raced motorcycles there here in Southwick. Just a really great small farm town. I like the vibe of it. I enjoyed living on the lake, and I've met people like Brian. My grandfather did business with his grandfather. He actually cleared his farm in like the 90s or something. I'm a social equity applicant, and I feel like that's probably one of the more important reasons that Southwick should consider this application, because when the state rolled out cannabis, everybody was excited, but it seems like a lot of people who had a passion for the industry got left out, and the state's done a ton to try to, rectify this and give people advantages. But the main thing that, you see a lot of business people that are already business people in the town that are, you know, they know people. It's easy for them to come to these meetings and they get, you know, they get their foot in the door, you know what I mean? And it's been harder for people who don't have that connection and who, you know, suffered from the war on drugs or the war on cannabis. And I just think it's really, really important to, I know that when we get up and going, we're gonna try to deal with as many of these cultivators and other businesses as we can to really support the equity community. And you know, that's, I don't want to go too far into other questions, but that's, you know, my experience with the city and why I think that we're a good fit here.
I'm Brian Kalachic, and I spent half my life here. My father lived here, so when I would be at my mother's house in Westfield, I tend to find myself after school or after sports here in town riding my dirt bike. I would even ride all the way to my dad's shop on Hudson Road, you know, the landscape supply store there. Or I'd end up at the summer house on the dirt bike from the trail, but then they shut that down. But that's all right. And
That's progress.
yes, so Southwick for me is more of a home for me. Cannabis is something I'm very passionate about. I've grown medical cannabis in California. I came back here in hopes to get into cannabis in Massachusetts, and it has been hurdle after hurdle. And I finally got into a grow. I'm a part owner of a grow here in Massachusetts, in Blanford. And I'd also be looking to bring my own grow that I own with these guys here to Southwick. That would be my main goal.
Bring that one here.
Not that one's there. I would sell my shares in that one too.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Haven really offers is a playbook, and being able to partner with local owners gives us kind of that unique flexibility to take, like I said, that deep level of expertise, that playbook that we have, combine it with some folks who are here on the ground, who are passionate about the community and the environment. And it gives us an opportunity to try to branch out into another state, which is something we've been wanting to do and we're ready for. And we think that this is really the perfect opportunity to be able to do that. So again, you know, the local owners are sitting here right in front of you that are here, that are committed to the community. That playbook includes a lot of different things. So one of the things that we're really proud of is the way that we do our community benefits, community investment fund. So you'll notice in our application, we have charted out, for example, a community calendar. That's a theoretical one. Really what happens is if we're selected to move forward, one of the first things that we do is we form a citizens panel. So it's a selection of folks from within the community, and we list, you know, typically the types of people that we're looking for. A person from a nonprofit agency, really like to have somebody from school board, so that we can get some varying, inputs as to what is important for the town and how can we mitigate some of the either perceived or real negative impacts of cannabis coming into a community, whether that's youth access and prevention, or these types of things. And so we bring those points of view and they help us to inform the community calendar. That community calendar is sort of our blueprint for how we invest our community investment fund. So with that, we pick an organization each month. We do a series of lectures or talks on that organization or the issues that are kind of close to that organization. We marry that with donations to that fund, again, at the direction of the citizens panel. And for us, that's really been a big part of what's enabled us to maintain our success within the state of California, because we do this in every single community that we go into. And whether that's a small community like a rural community, Porterville and Central Valley, which is, you know, it's not totally unlike Southwick, or some of the broader cities like Long Beach. It's a playbook that's really worked very well to ensure that, again, those perceived negative benefits those perceived kind of negative externalities of a cannabis shop coming into a town, we're ensuring that we're engaging with the local community to actively mitigate them. You know, there's, again, sort of the elephant in the room here, I think, is we've heard a few of the comments, is like the out-of-state operator. And I just want to remind you that a big part of what makes us successful is our commitment to local hiring. So when I look at the bud tenders, or the guest sales associates, as we call them in our stores, you know, without exception that I can think of, every single one of our general managers is from the store in which they came from. So it's from their community. They started at the bottom and worked their way up and are now manager of a store. So for us, ensuring that we're hiring locally is very, very important. At the same time, we do have a network of support through our head office. So that's gives us an advantage to be able to deal with things like accounting issues. So some of the challenges that are unique to cannabis are the tax regulations, you know, being able to properly calculate all the different layers of taxes as they go from the host community agreement up to, you know, the sales tax, the state, and up to the federal tax, and all of those complications. Being able to have a team of professionals who have been dealing with this for many, many years. You know, the roots of Haven really go back to the first company we started, ShowGrow, back in 2015. Most of the people that are with Haven today are the same people that started that organization. So we started as a medical marijuana facility only, doing medical sales, transition through adult use, and brought along these folks with us. Again, accounting, legal, and that sort of thing. So it gives us the ability to really empower our local operators with a team who's very knowledgeable and competent. And it goes beyond that, you know, so a big part of cannabis is obviously being able to source and implement a supply chain. And so we've developed a certain level of sophistication related to how we identify what products work in which market, right? We use very advanced demographics to understand what the people are in the particular area to ensure that the products that we're supplying meet the needs of the consumers that are within that area. It's really important to be able to do that because with cannabis, very, very low shelf life, especially when you're talking about flower, right? So it's very easy to get in positions where you're supplying too much of the wrong product, not enough of the right products. And so there's a lot of deep expertise that we have in being able to ensure that the products that we put within the store are well adapted to the environment that we're operating in. And that's just an example of some of the benefits that we're able to offer by partnering with folks who are here on the ground operating locally.
Is each of your locations privately owned by your managers, or is it a corporate? What's the structure?
The ownership structure varies a little bit across the locations. So Haven is our trade name. Each license is operated under a separate LLC. All those LLCs have different names, but they all run under the same trade name of Haven. Generally speaking, the collection of folks that you see in our agreement who are listed as owners, who are not Mark and Brian, they're common owners across the majority of, actually all of our locations. There may be, you know, for example, we have a local partner in our San Bernardino store who owns a chunk of that store. We have a local partner in our Porterville store who owns a small chunk in that store. But by and large, the same people own most of the equity. This would actually be a unique situation because we've not gotten into a social equity partnership. But again, Mark's been a friend for a long, you know, for much longer than he is very unique. And so this was, you know, him being a social equity partner. Yeah, it really is. Him being a social equity partner, you know, it lent to a little different structure than we've done in others, but really kind of makes sense here, right? Again, being the out-of-state operator coming into Southwick, we really wanted to ensure that we did it the right way. And this, quite honestly, you know, even though it's a stretch for us from California to Massachusetts, the reason we haven't grown outside of California is because there wasn't such a natural sort of organic opportunity as this one.
Are all of your other locations only in California?
Correct. Yeah, we have 10 retail locations.
Arizona.
So ShowGrow, the company I mentioned earlier, which dissolved and then turned into Haven, we operated a store in Nevada there. I was with Harvest Health and Recreation for a short period, which was dating Verano, who had a number of facilities in Massachusetts. And so I have experience in like 23 regulated markets, doing various mergers and acquisitions with various cannabis companies. So that gives us, you know, kind of a unique breadth of depth as it relates to understanding the intricacies of the variation of regulations. Because even in, you know, California, you'll have regulations that vary from the municipal level to the state level, understanding how they operate from state to state. It's something that we're quite adept at.
And I think one thing that they've done is in different towns, they come up with different regulations. Like in Long Beach, there's a community liaison. That is, you have to have that. So when we put this together, we were like, we still want to have that here because it's a great thing. You know, it gives Brian's our community liaison and it gives the public someone to go right directly to. and hopefully not be bothering you guys about stuff, you know, like it'll go right to Brian first. He can try to deal with the problem or whatever complaint question. And that was having his number posted on the entrance. That's like a requirement. So I think it's an advantage when you have people that have operated in different states and different areas, because they may pick up on something that Massachusetts hasn't even picked up on yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good idea there, so we're gonna bring it here too, because, you know, frankly, it worked, right?
Yeah, we truly understand industry best practices. I've been in medical marijuana since 2009. Many of our partners in the organization, you know, close to or that long, officially formed our first company in 2015 as Showgrow, and then that turned into Haven in 2018. Yeah, I think our headline numbers across the ownership team, something like 66 years of direct cannabis experience. Yeah, I'll just touch on, because we do have, you know, a lot of this experience, your question, and I understand that you'll need counsel to sort of inform you on what to do when you have the potential conflicts of buffers between stores and scoring. It's not an uncommon issue. We've seen it happen many times. And the sort of the prototypical way to deal with that is you sort of blindly rank it irrespective of whatever, you know, the zoning of buffering. You rank the individuals, and then if you have a lower ranking that's buffered out by a higher ranking, they're eliminated, is typically how cities do this.
That's how we're going. I'm strong on ranking, right?
I think your middle name is Rubric.
You gotta stick to something, right?
It worked, like you said, what works, you carry it forward.
Yeah, for us, that's been cannabis.
Okay. So you two will be the local managers, you two.
Me and Brian, yeah.
Are you recruiting staff now?
Yeah, so we put the name, sorry to interrupt, but I can speak to this specifically. So we put the name of an individual in our application. It's been redacted, so you have to look at one of the redacted pages. So we've been in talks with somebody who's not very far away. But because of their current situation, we can't disclose who they are in a public forum, could jeopardize their current opportunities. But that would be sort of the first individual that we would go to for the on the ground day-to-day operations. For us, it's very, very important to find people locally to staff the stores. So these gentlemen here would be our on the ground, you know, owner liaisons, right? So they would be the ones here responsible for ensuring that the folks that we put in are going to be the right ones and being our local contacts on the ground. But, you know, at the end of the day, having operated, you know, we operate 10 active retail stores now. It's really important that you have good line level staff in there. And, you know, to that comment earlier, we don't experience near the rate of attrition that the other operators are experiencing. Certainly, entry level service positions are subject to rates of turnover, but we don't see them to be much beyond other industries. In fact, we think we're probably running a little bit better. And we think that's probably because of the benefit package that we offer our employees is very, very generous. So, you know, there's an individual in our organization, Johnny Hernandez. He comes from, you know, a long line of like, you know, working at Best Buy corporate, and he's just like the biggest employee champion. And he quite frankly just, you know, was a stickler. He's like, guys, this is what we have to do. And it's turned out to be the right move because we don't have the high rates of turnover. We have a much more productive, effective, happier staff all the way down.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, the guest associates that work on pet insurance is really good. I have it actually. The pet insurance.
I thought that's what she said.
Yeah, so the guest associates, you know, they make a really, really decent wage. They typically do very well with tips on top of that. And so, you know, and then they do have pathways to grow, right? They can move up into lead positions, into management positions. And we're really looking at this opportunity as our first foray into the state. Quite frankly, if this is successful, we would like to kind of take our blueprint from California and grow it over here.
So as a follow-up to your managers, do either of you have experience on the medical side?
Oh, yes, tons of experience. When I moved to California, I think it was in 2007, there was only medical right? So
Okay.
when you got there, there wasn't stores, right? It was collectives, it was cooperatives. And what that meant is people would start a collective or a cooperative, and then you would be a member. You weren't a customer, you were a member. And everybody worked together. It was actually really great before they legalized it, to tell you the truth. But everyone worked together and it was like a real community, you know what I mean? And people would help each other, give clones, or, you would go help trim, or, there would be, and that's kind of how it operated. It wasn't really like a cash thing, it was more of like, yeah, like a community thing. So that's what it was. I personally liked it more that way. But then they legalized it and it just became all about big business and, that's what happened to it. So you kind of got to go with it if you want to be part of it, I guess.
Yeah, the roots of Haven really trace back to the medical marijuana movement in California coming out of Prop 215. In fact, like a lot of the vernacular we still use is like, still call people patients a lot of times and that sort of thing. And what comes along with that is we have a pretty extensive training program. It's actually pioneered by a gentleman who's the other redhead in our organization, whose wife is from Southwick, coincidentally. And he started as a bud tender at Berkeley Patient Group in 2009 or something like this, which was one of the very first city licensed dispensaries in California, and just a wealth of knowledge of cannabis. Because, especially now with all the minor cannabinoids, CBG, CBN, CBC, there's a lot more of a dialed in effect that you can achieve when you're helping somebody to treat a specific condition, whether it's insomnia, appetite, pain. There's all different formulations now of specific blends of minor cannabinoids, which are really effective for different ailments. And Josh is really the epitome of that. He leads our training. And so that's the type of training that we would bring to the employees here in Southwick, is really a deep understanding of how cannabis is synthesized by the body and what sort of effects that produces. And so we think that's a really good benefit for people who are new to cannabis, don't know what to do when they come into a store. It's especially beneficial for people who are coming for medical purposes.
So this is the first look at kind of a franchise model that we've seen, right?
I'm waiting for the word to come out, franchise.
Yeah, kind of sort of like that, right? I mean,
there is an element of that, right? Where you have you're kind of taking the advantage of the branding and kind of all that comes along with it, but you're sponsoring the ability of local operators to really be able to get into an industry, offset some of that risk, reduce some of the barriers to entry, especially when it comes to things like access to capital, calling up an attorney with a question. These things are hard and are really necessary when getting your cannabis business off the ground. It's not super easy, right? There's a lot of kind of technical nuances that people can trip over and ultimately lead to failure. So in some ways it is, yeah. And I think it's a really good example of how that can be a well-functioning model.
and Mark, I don't want to mispronounce your last name.
It's Dupuy.
Dupuy. So you alluded when we were talking earlier that you had a lot of issues with the application process, maybe not in here. So I'm kind of interested to hear what you felt the process was here vis-a-vis elsewhere. Was it easier, better?
It was transparent. You guys did a good job, and I know Diane, she did most of it, I guess, or whatever happened there. I don't know, but she did a great job, I think. I mean, you're never gonna get it perfect, right? Someone's always gonna feel upset, but when we read the application, it was clear to us, and you can probably see by our response to it. It was clear what we needed to do. It was when we had a question, we emailed, Diane got back to us in 6 hours. I mean, sometimes it takes you a week to get some cities. So I think you guys did as good of a job as you could. I think that it was great to see some, recognizing the social equity and the economic empowerment and the other priority applicants. Some cities didn't even know what that was when I spoke with them. They said they wanted to let the other people open first, which are the non-social equity applicants, which is kind of backwards, but I think, I think it's just good to set some kind of standard guidelines and stick to them, right? I mean, because
So we can franchise the application process?
yeah, hey, I mean, I think other
sell it to other
cities
cities.
could use it and build off of it.
Well, I
and-
cheated and I copied some of.
Well,
the
hey,
other
that's
cities.
how most of business is done. I mean, really, I hate to say it. I've done it before. I look at someone else's legal paper and copy and paste it and edit it a little bit and,
It didn't work.
you
in the
know,
editing.
so that's usually, but I think you guys did a, fair enough job to me anyways. There's obviously you took a break to question some things and I mean, you got to do that, right? I mean, it's,
Like I said, coming from
Yeah,
my background on the other side with
Yeah,
negotiations.
there's no reason to rush through and
Different
then go
words.
backwards. So
Yep.
I think you guys did a great job on it, honestly.
And in my sense, having done a few of these, is that the group here is really connected to and really cares about the community. And sometimes you don't necessarily get that sentiment from every single city. And so I think that really shows in the way you guys are running the process and the questions that you're asking and the connections that you're looking for from applicants. Because to me, it feels like you want to feel good about living in the community and the decisions that you make and how they impact the community that you live in. So I think that's great.
And I've known many operators and I chose these guys because I've seen what they've done in their community plans and how extensive they are. And the name Haven, I like it. It's not really right in your face like cannabis this, or, I just, seeing school kids drive by and go, oh, cannabis, I just think it's clean. You can see our application. We did 3D renderings of the inside, the outside, so you know exactly what you're getting. I mean, it's not like oh, what are these guys gonna build or what are they gonna do? Like, you can basically look at our application and say, oh, I see exactly what these guys are planning on doing, and that's, between that is why I thought it was a good fit. Our building is, I think it's the best building. Everyone's gonna say their building's the best building, but I mean, it's a beautiful building. It's big. We got plenty of room to do medical and all that. If we can expand into other things down the road, we would gladly do that. I'd love to do a big, huge cultivation here with someone who's already a farmer maybe in town, who's got a farm that's struggling. I would love to partner with more local partners. The partners already run, I think, the biggest canopy in Oregon. It's like 25 acres. They're doing like 30,000 pounds a year or something right now. So, that would be my long-term goal. I love cultivating and, we're gonna get the dispensary up and running. We're gonna, do that, but ahead of that, I'd love to do as much as we can here, whether it's delivery, social consumption, whatever we can do to bring more revenue. I would just love to go deliver over to Westfield and bring that revenue here for Southwick, for that tax. So if we can do it, we will,
I think to kind of answer this, I think there was a question in there, but I'm gonna talk anyway. I think to someone who just said that, we kind of care about the community. One, I can speak for myself and I with some confidence speak for the other two members of this board. We certainly aren't doing it for the money.
Yeah.
And, we all have extensive experience, whether it's in the community or in serving on boards and commissions for the sole purpose of this community and why we're here, why we live here. I'm fortunate that I live and work in this town. Diane lives and has a very, great interest in town. Jason lives in town, obviously, and, works in a neighboring community, but has got very deep roots in this community. And, I never for 1 second, with any differences that we ever have any doubt of their, where they're coming from on a given issue, right? And so, and I think that's hugely important.
Yeah.
And now speaking for myself, I sat on, I want to say it was probably 8 or 9 years ago now. I sat on a subcommittee that we had about cannabis before we even had any bylaw. I believe Mr. Phelps, who's in the audience, was also on the same subcommittee as myself. He might even been the chairman. And and the reason I bring it up is because there's a picture somewhere from a newspaper that ran and it was one of our first or second or third meetings and a troop, for lack of a better word, came out from Boston to tell us about cannabis. And we were talking about zoning and this and that, and everything was new. This CCC was new, the prospect of medicinal cannabis was new, recreational was not on the table yet. And we were looking at where and the why and the how and just general discussion. And the interesting thing to me from that and resulted in the picture in the paper, and maybe it's just me, was the person sitting next to me was from Boston, and they proudly proclaimed that absolutely no one else should get a license unless you've done time. And only those that had been incarcerated for a significant amount of time. Marcus is nodding his head because he was at the same meeting, but the article ran in the paper, my jaw was.
Well, I mean, it's sad, isn't it? We have people in prison for cannabis and other people are profiting off of it now. I mean, it's
I get
pretty
it.
sad, really.
It's an
you know?
interesting, but you know, and it is an interesting turn of how that matured, and I think that, and watching. I think I've seen parallels, just from where I sit, I've seen parallels with what's happened with legalized gaming and now legalized cannabis. And I don't know what the next legalized thing is going to be.
Psychedelics, that's what they're saying.
You know, and I don't know, as to how, why we're here and why the state suddenly has a whole new division of government. California has it too. We have our CCC, they have whatever they call it out there, you know, gets in the, I don't want to say get in the way, but created an entire new bureaucracy to oversee it and frankly, tax the crap out of it and then make it economically more difficult than it needs to be and regulatory wise probably than it needs to be to even open this type of place. And I think one of the other interviewees kind of said, look, this is a retail product that's going to be, you know, and I had likened it, Marcus and I had this conversation, and sorry, Marcus, to keep bringing you into this, but you know, why is this any different than a liquor store? Or why did we even have to do this? Why aren't the liquor folks overseeing this? And why don't we give the medicinal to, you know, pharmacies? They can protect and oversee prescriptions for way more dangerous things than this. But here we are. So it's interesting to hear the take on it as to, you know, why certain other things and why there's preference and whatnot. And frankly, we had to go through quite a process with what would have been an application to be on a board or a commission or a board or to open an auto parts store or a used car dealership versus you wanted to open a cannabis dispensary. We had to completely change how we went about that whole process.
Right.
It seemed incredulous to me, but so I was interested, you know, I appreciate your candor as to, you know, why, you know, from the equity standpoint and from the access standpoint, you know, what your take on it was as to, did we make the process doable for yourselves as part of the process?
Not really, I mean, it's, and now the state's seeing that and they're trying to implement, you know, some different things, like they just changed the delivery laws to where you only need one person in the car. A delivery person can actually buy bulk product and then package it themselves. And they're working toward it, you know, you know how it is, you have to have your public meetings, you have to have your outreach, so they get a bunch of stuff together and then they put out a meeting and they try to just keep fine tuning it the best that they can, really.
They gotta go
you know?
slow to get
Yep,
there.
exactly, so.
It was
Yeah.
a big fight.
And for, you know, from our perspective, you're right? Like the burden, like the regulatory ground is like constantly shifting. There are high barriers to entry. But at the end of the day, we're an organization, we're not an advocacy group when it comes to regulations and legislation. So our job is just to take it in, right? To take in what are the regulatory requirements, what are the employee and needs, what is the economic reality, and what is the environment that we're operating in, and marry them into an operation. And that's what we're presenting here.
So at the end of the day, are we nearing the end? Or do you have more?
I have no more questions.
Mr. Perot?
I said in the beginning, I got one and only one.
So at the end of the day, why you? Why with everything that you've heard, and so you have the opportunity of batting last,
So
why you?
So I think that we represent a unique blend of a deep level of experience operating across a number of markets with a core operation that respects the communities at which we operate in, and a partnership with a couple of individuals who are deeply committed to this particular agenda.
and for me personally, I love having employees. I love taking people and giving them a career. You know, it's something that I've been passionate about. When I ran cultivation facilities, I've had 20, 30 people working for me, and I've taken people that have never even had a real career and watched them bloom into like having a real career. And they thank me, and I know their families, I know, everything. And it's been a great experience. It really has, my time that I have had in the industry. And I hope that we can do it here. I really do. I hope we can, do a big cultivation and everything. I hope we can just expand it as far as we can here in Southwick. So, Brian.
So originally me and Mark were gonna apply separately, and then we noticed that we were applying. And we decided that with our expertise and his team, that combining us together, with me having the grow already here, that we would make like the all-around team. One thing with me, I do own another business. And one thing I like to do is I like to be able to give people opportunities. And for myself, it's been a process to be able to get into legal cannabis. And I want to be able to give other people opportunities that have not had that helping hand to get involved, see where they can go, and sky's the limit for them. That's really what I want to do. I want to be able to help people that have struggled to get here.
I'm good.
You good? Gentlemen, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience in this process.
Everyone.
All of you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so
Dan.
much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Get the pound.
It worked for me.
We do for a five.
I would like to take a short recess if possible. I need to use facilities.
There you go.
So, no recess, so.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. I mean, it's done. I mean, it's not done.
Business, because it's usually your opportunities.
That's gonna be your opportunity. You can do whatever you want on that one.
Maybe we should have a selectmen's roundtable at that, or anything you guys wanna talk about. You know, on the agenda for just something that, you know, just for you guys to have instead of old business.
We don't have a lot on it.
Yeah.
Not today.
Not now,
No, not today, but you usually under,
but if
I
it's
mean,
under
it's
old
some
business,
people
but if
do
it's
it.
not under old
Yeah.
business, and you wanna talk about Sunday's ag day and you.
yeah, I don't think it's anything like that. Yeah.
You wanna go for it, then you go.
That's not old business.
All right, we're gonna bring the meeting back into order and open it back up. Lisa, we recording again?
Yeah, you can't stop
Yeah.
it. You can't stop.
Oh, she
It's been
can
running
stop it? Okay.
Oh, so then her
Oh,
mouth-
great, wonderful. Good thing I didn't say anything bad.
Never.
No, yes, I have.
No, I mean, you never do, because
Yeah, so. All right, so now we are going to move on. The next thing, what we're gonna do, folks, with that is we're gonna discuss it and determine the decision we're gonna make probably tonight when we get to the old business. If that's all right with everybody?
Which will be coming up not too long.
Well, we hope.
sometime before Tuesday.
So the next thing we're gonna address
Stuff goes pretty quick.
is with all the North Pond stuff, we've discussed about having a North Pond task force. So, we've gotten some letters of interest, and Nicole, can you?
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, I don't think we have to go back through what happened with North Pond recently. But we did really take the matter into our own hands really quickly. And you know, trying to mitigate what's going to happen in the future there and get some guidelines that will be safe, but allow access to what is supposed to be allowed there, which is not the water. So you'd asked for a task force, you know, you spoke about it and you had conversations about it. And so I reached out to some of the department heads. I tend to feel like it, you know, really should stem from staff, this task force, because we are the ones that are in the thick of it every day. So I you know, thought about who I think should be on here, and I really think, and I reached out to the police, the fire, lake management, conservation, Sabrina from conservation, select board. Diane has been with me through this all. She's done the site visit. She was there with the state, so I thought just, you know, organically, Diane could just be on the task force. Hopefully, it's not a very long task force, and we don't have to meet that often. Randy from DPW, a resident, we had a few interests, and obviously me, just ex officio, no voting rights, but just to help facilitate the meetings and come up with some suggestions too. And also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so there's 7 people that are suggested here, which would keep it odd, which is what we'd want to do. I'd make the 8th, which wouldn't have voting rights again. So that's for you now. I have given you my suggestion on a plate, and now you guys can disseminate or add to it or completely remove it and do whatever you like.
I think we do need a task.
Oh, we do, you know, and I talked to Nicole earlier this week, and you know, and I kind of at one point had wanted to be the hammer. And because I like to put things, I like to use rules and put people in their place. So, I kind of wanted to do that, but, that you're right, Diane has been point on this. I'm still a little kind of, you know, when I wouldn't say under the weather, but debilitated or disabled, the wrong word, but, and, I also, as you and I discussed, I got a lot of other, I have to, you know, be personal stuff that I have to attend to right now. So I definitely think, unless Mr. Moglen has any interest, or I mean, I'd listen to either one of you.
I think I want to step back. First of all, I was a huge proponent of putting together a task force. You know, the night that this whole thing went way off the rails, and this has been a problem that's been coming, or brewing for a while. I don't think any of us saw what
No,
transpired,
no.
to actually transpire, but the absolute abuse of the North Pond Conservation Area, contrary to the way that the conservation restriction was written, the way it was implemented, and the intended use of that beautiful piece of property was totally being ignored. And there was not nearly enough attention by those who were charged with the responsibility of upholding that conservation restriction, had abdicated their responsibility, and it forced our hand to have to step in and take the unilateral step to close it. And then, put people's health and welfare at risk at the same time, and that caused us to close it. So the only way to go from here is to put together a task force and figure out, how we're gonna do it. Now, stepping back from that, the thing that concerns me about having staff do it is the staff is going to administer policy as set forth by their board. That's the nature of the staff, right? So, the Park and Rec person is gonna, and I'm purposely avoiding people on this, that are purported on this task force. But I think, they're gonna have to go, I don't wanna hear the answer that we have to go back to their board to meet and discuss, because they, some of those boards and commissions meet every other to once a month. And that's gonna be a problem. Now, having Randy on there, I think is a great idea. Having the police chief on there. I'd be a proponent of having former Chief Bishop on there as well. There was, a resident that lives, two residents, I believe, that abut the property would also be very, they have a kind of a vested interest in being involved in this process. So whether they are or not on said subcommittee, I would assume that it would meet on a regular basis and, certainly be able to take input from anyone who wants to bring ideas. I happen to catch, I think it was the conservation meeting last week, and Marcus, I'll use your name one more time. Marcus showed up with some plants that would be a good thing to plant on that, or a suggested plant that would make that shore area or that hillside less appealing for people to be going up and down because of the plant that would grow and take over that place. I was also frankly a little bit surprised. It had been a little bit since I had been down at the bottom of how eroded that hillside was and how damaged it had become, versus the whole premise behind that conservation restriction was to bring that property back to its absolute pristine and natural state so people could enjoy it and walk through it and so on and so forth, but it's been absolutely devastated. But back to the task force, I think we give it a try and see how it goes, but we have to make sure that they're able to move swiftly. One of the problems with it, just having us administer it, for example, is one, there's other people that are absolute stakeholders in this, and two, we've been meeting less frequently than even I would have liked so far, just with the pressing issue here. So let's give it a go and let's try to, and I fully support having Diane on it. She has the time and the willingness to do it right now, so I would fully support doing that. But, and to have, one, maybe we have to increase the resident count. I don't know, to get above an even number to instead of one, maybe you have 3, I don't know, but that's just a suggestion, because we have, I know, I think I know all 3 of the folks that asked to be on it, and they all have a really valid reason to want to be on it.
I have another suggestion for a resident as well. I think as far as being a task force, it is to come up with proposals to be accepted. I don't think it would be everybody goes to their own boards and commissions to get approval. It's to come up with a plan and present a plan and then determine how it gets implemented. So I think that can happen swiftly. So.
And if I could just really quick, I, think Sabrina, it is a conservation land and she has some perspective, like what kind of plants to put in, something like that. I certainly, when I was thinking about all of these people, didn't think that they're gonna have to go back and get some feedback from anybody else. This is the task force. We are the staff. We will bring our solutions or suggestions right back to the select board. So most of them, most of them are just town employees, she's the conservation agent, but still under, is appointed by the select board. So, Yeah, I wasn't thinking even like lake management. I feel like, you know, they make sure that everything's happening on the lake, but the lake is the biggest
Is a part of the,
part of the reason. So to have some input and have everybody kind of having their little expertise in here to see what the solution will be, and hopefully to have it very quickly, you know, that we don't have to meet 11 times. I'm hoping that it can be sooner.
right?
I'm not sure. I can't see into the future, but I would hope that we could come up with some things pretty quick.
I have another person to throw in the mix, Erica Rossini. She grew up on South Long Yard Road. There are generations of her direct and extended family still in town as she is. She has a young child. She's vested in the current situation and the current safety and the condition of our amenities. With her family being in the location, I feel like we need people who are one step removed from the trauma.
That's exactly what I thought when I
And,
saw the names.
and I feel like the other people are too
Emotionally attached,
traumatized.
you know, and that's when I saw the names and I saw.
We all live here.
Mhm.
It's part of all of us. We're all aware of what is going on and, you know, its impacts, but I think people too involved are not the ones to make those kind of,
Yeah, and I don't mean it in a bad sense.
I don't either.
Anyway, so
I don't
it's just-
either. It's like,
That's
you know,
exactly
you
this,
take the right
when I was
person.
home, when I was sitting here, that's exactly what I thought.
You take the right person to the doctor with you when it's bad news, kind of thing.
So I
Somebody
was having this
who hears
discussion at
this.
home a little bit about it and.
So she's connected but removed a little bit.
And
So
and I
that,
do
that's
like,
a name I want to throw out there.
I
as-
do like Chief Bishop, former Chief Bishop.
So do I,
Especially where he's not on the lake. Again, another one.
but he's very involved
Yeah.
in the youth to the aged,
So
you know,
what-
everybody's.
Two, three, everyone?
No, his perspective is for the youth as all the way through. So how many does that make? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the conservation would be would be Norm.
No, I suggest Sabrina. Sabrina told me Norm Cheever of Conservation is also interested. Once again, I was just keeping the boards
Okay,
out of
gotcha,
it, so
gotcha.
I just wanted to let you
But
know
I
that
think,
he had
okay, but I
interest.
thought Sabrina very well represented
That's what I think too.
that commission.
But then what about lake management?
They were voting last night who they were going to.
Well, that could.
But that would be a board member
That
of lake management.
That would be
Oh, that
Norm,
would be, have to
then.
be a board member.
Then that would be Norm, right?
Well, I mean,
If that's who they
I guess then
chose.
you start having this discussion and, you know, and lake management is an appointee of this board as well. It's an ad hoc advisory commission, ad hoc advisory board to this board. No objection, but then it kind of gets
Yeah.
away from the mission that we stated of, we want to have,
Yeah,
you know, town staff. But
Mhm.
it's cross it out if that, you know, if
and
does start.
and nothing,
certainly ask
nothing
for
against
their
Norm,
input.
you know,
We can certainly
I
ask for their
completely
input.
respect Norm's opinion.
I didn't-
And I know Norm's been down there, you know, even with the closure, he's going down there to help continue to clean up and do stuff. Here or there.
So that would be police, fire, conservation being Sabrina. Select board, DPW, that's 5. And then
Two
two
residents.
residents. And you as the
And me,
moderator,
yeah.
which I think we all agree on.
And like I said, I
Chief
just
Bishop,
think
right?
even if you name this committee, I mean, and we have one elected on there, but we are the, you know, the chief administrative, you know, board of the town, and I think that that's fine. And then, like I said, whoever, if you are or not on this subcommittee, and Norm, you know, he won't miss a meeting anyway. If there's he's more than welcome to
I said he
come and
always gives
participate and take care, you know, bring back or bring forward any information that he can bring.
Would these be posted meetings? How does that?
Yeah, they'll
work
be
if it's a
posted,
task
but they don't
force?
have to be evening, but they should be posted, yeah.
So, I mean, residents could come and
Yeah.
say,
Oh, yeah. I don't know, you know, I don't know if they're subject to you know, the open meeting law and everything else, because it's a staff meeting, but I don't know. I don't think so.
No, if it's staff, but I think that for all intents and purposes, this would be its own small yet temporary committee that should probably host and keep minutes.
Yeah, might as well.
What do you say?
So harm in it.
So did we all agree on Chief Bishop?
I'm all for Chief Bishop.
I'm in.
So one other resident makes 7.
I don't know the person you mentioned, so I don't think maybe
I
I
have-
don't think I know.
I don't think,
You know of her.
I know of her, okay. Um. I'm of two minds on this one with that. I understand, and that's why with me, it was Chief Bishop, in my mind, was already there because he is the one that's set away from the lake. So Miss Rossini has some sort of family connection there as well. So we've already got somebody that's not,
Right, her house is in his neighborhood, but her family lives on Granado.
I 100% know who you're talking about now. Thank you.
Okay.
so the way I look at it is if we're gonna have somebody who's in a sense still emotionally connected, it might not be bad to have one of the other three attached to this committee. And if of the three that I see there, I would be able to.
One is a victim, let's say,
I understand that.
okay, and the other one, I'm gonna be out with it, is too emotionally attached to the project. And we understand what all of the concerns are.
We do.
From the origin of the project to where it is today. I think we've got that covered.
I'm not opposed to that other person. I know nothing about that other person, so. Other than they live in my neighborhood, so. At this point, what's gonna be acceptable for everybody else?
Why don't you just leave it how it is? What, you got 6? Instead of 7, you're not voting on anything of substance anyway, really? It's not a voting board. You're gonna be setting up some rules and some potential
Sure.
things to send back. Go with it. And
With
if you,
6.
if you come back and
With 6.
come back in 2 weeks, say, I need to put another person on.
Yeah, we'll go with,
Figure it out.
we'll go with.
So it's not a board or subcommittee, it's just a
Okay.
task.
Okay.
We've done.
We should do that, or
I don't necessarily think you need a motion, but you can, it doesn't hurt.
to create the task. force.
Motion to create the task force.
Just go and have a motion to create the task force.
I'll make a motion to create that task force with the
Second.
members we just stated.
Very good. Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Dan Gale,
Doug Mogul, aye.
and will you contact, or you release a contact?
Yeah.
All the people that were roping into this?
Yes. They all know.
And I will let Erica Rossini know that she may just be on deck.
Yes,
If she's not on there, I have no idea.
I thought the name was familiar. I couldn't place it till you put it in context for me. Thank you.
Anytime.
all right, next item on the agenda is payables, payroll, and minutes. We need to acknowledge payables warrant number 2503B dated 7/22/24 in the amount of $4,684,880, $4,684,800,
$884.69.
and we need to acknowledge payables warrant 25003 dated 7/30/2024 in the amount of $290,920.85. We also need to acknowledge payables warrant number 2504B dated 8/5/2024 in the amount of $409,593.41. We need a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from 7/1/2024.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Dan Gale,
Doug Mogul, yes.
We need to approve a motion to approve open session meeting minutes from 7/15/2024.
motion to approve minutes from 7/15/24.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Dan Gale,
Doug Mogul, yes.
And we need a motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from 7/22/2024.
We're gonna table those. We haven't seen them yet.
Okay.
Mr. Peron, the $4.7 million from That must have been a significant school assessment. Just asking.
Yeah, probably July's
Yeah.
the first payment in July.
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. Yeah,
It just jumped off the page, you know,
Yeah.
usually
It was a
they're,
big,
you know,
it was a big.
$400,000, or $4.5 million.
Finance committee knows where it goes.
You should. You're the chairman of the select.
Well,
Can't go after the finance guy on.
finance
Right,
committee,
I just was
accounting,
asking.
so on and so forth, so.
Carry on.
Anyways, we need to go to our meeting discussion items. Action items, bills, mail correspondence, vendor and or personnel contracts, personnel decisions, policy adoptions and payroll. We need to acknowledge the Southwick Regional School Yearbook Committee request for business ad. We need to approve the request from the assessor's office to raise their abutters list request fee from 5 cents a page printed to $10 a completed request. We'll be looking for a motion to approve that.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to determine if we're doing the business ad and what value. Is that correct?
Is to acknowledge. Acknowledge.
So let me
didn't
ask
know
the
we
question,
did-
what is the size of the ad and?
We usually have, it's usually like a quarter page, isn't it?
It's on. So is she asking the select board to support the yearbook? Is that what she's
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll make a motion that we do the same thing we did last year.
whatever it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll second that.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, yes.
Very good.
Sorry, next.
That's quite all right. Next, we do need to approve the request from the assessor's office to raise their abutters list request fee from 5 cents a page printed to $10 a request completed. Be looking for a motion for
I'll
that.
make a motion to do that. Seems reasonable.
Discussion,
Go ahead, sir.
is that a butters list? I read it real quick, but there's no, it didn't seem to have a limit. The 10 cents a page is kind of self-limiting, so if you get something that's 1,000 pages, it's gonna be 10 cents a page.
You'll
right?
never have that size of an abutters list.
Sure,
So I mean, so 5 cents a page is typically it's 10, in cities it's 25.
Yeah.
But when you get in a butters list, if it's 300 feet for planning or 500 feet, you know, you're gonna get,
It's a butters and a
you
butters to the
typically
butters.
aren't
so
going to
it's-
get a very long abutters list. I guess I'm thinking about like very urban places with a lot of apartment
Oh, sure.
buildings, something like that. They might have a lot, but I don't think that, that
For one of our applicants, there were 11, for instance.
oh, I get it, I just
Oh.
was just thinking, just if someone were to come in and say, I want all the abutters of a mile from my place. There's just no upper end, you know, when it's 10 cents a page or 5 cents a page, you know, it's gonna be whatever to cover your costs. If you made it, if you doubled the price per page to 10 or 25 cents, that's great. You know, but if someone comes in and gets a 500-page report, they're gonna
Yeah,
get
you
that for
wanna-
$10. They're gonna get one page for $10. I just wanna make sure we're not putting ourselves, to your point, I don't think it's gonna be a big deal that no one would ever come in there, but I think you should have,
That could be
You
stated
know,
with a caveat.
yeah, above 20 pages or above 25 pages, it's,
you could have.
25
actually
cents
say
a
about
page.
10 pages.
Huh?
That's
so,
10
so there,
pages.
so that would be my motion, then it
Sure.
would be $10 for a butters list up to, what was the number of
10
pages?
pages.
10 pages, and then it's 25 cents a page thereafter. Just to protect the town.
Why was it like $18? 20. For my, not for my sandwich alone.
Finally, I struck a nerve.
Forget Bob.
Okay, so if that was a motion,
That was my motion.
then I will second that.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, yes.
Next, we have the chief, we need to appoint call force fire medic Kristen Nutting and call force firefighter paramedic Dwight Gregoire to the Southwick Fire Department.
If it pleases the board, I'd like to add 2 names to that, please. So as an offshoot of the interview process for the career members, we had 2 people very interested in becoming per diem members as well too. So I'd like to add to that list Marissa Lucette and Robert Barron. I did try to get information to you earlier on their resumes. But two very good qualified people. And again, out of the 10 people that we did interview, if I was hiring 6, I would add 7 very good candidates. So it was a tough argument. So they're interested in per diem. Let's move forward on it.
I'll make a motion to appoint those 4. Kristen Nutting, Dwight Gregoire, Marissa Musette, and Robert Barron.
I'd like to offer a modified motion that,
Per diem.
subject to them coming in front of this board at our next meeting for a brief interview.
Okay, second.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Next, we have a library request to remove the 3 outdoor book drops from the library's inventory.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
We need to approve I would be looking for that motion to approve the elderly sewer rate for 99 Berkshire Avenue.
Make a motion to approve that sewer rate abatement, 99 Berkshire Ave.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
We need to approve the rate increase for Denise Hills McGarry from $16.50 to $18.50. This is not a budget funded position. It is grant funded.
Make a motion to approve that rate increase for Denise Hills McGarry.
I'll second the motion.
All right, roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, yes.
We need to approve the rate increase for Denise Siebert from $18.94 to $23.67. This is also not a budget funded position. It is a grant funded position.
I will make a motion to approve the rate increase for Denise Siebert, and just to say, these are both senior center as grant positions. Just so we know where they are.
Very good.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
We need to approve and designate the chair to sign the cybersecurity improvements grant for $19,970 for DPW to be used for upgrades to firewall serving the SCADA system.
Make that motion.
I'll gladly second that motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Diane Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, yes.
All right. We are up to new business. We need to review and discuss the letter from Board of Assessors for temporary Assistant Director of Assessment position. Nicole, we talked about it. Could you?
Yeah, so the assessors have been discussing, and I had seen them during the day when I was in their office for a reason. And you know, they're talking about the principal assessor is going to be retiring in 2 years in the succession plan. So they just want to put it on the radar that that what they would like to see is, and I didn't call it a assistant director. I called it a temporary special assistant to the assessor so then the principal assessor there now can train this person to be an assessor in a very niche market where it's almost impossible to find assessors. So, you know, I think basically they just wanted the board to understand that, you know, in the climate of municipal workers, especially assessors, that it is hard to find, and we could potentially have an in-house person that's willing to become an assessor and train and learn under our principal assessor's wing. So, but that's 2 years, and I probably wouldn't be looking for that yet. I don't think somebody needs 2 years.
I think, if I may, sorry.
Absolutely.
Let me jump up. I think that it's a great idea, and I think what we should do is go through the process of posting for it with the roadmap of that this person is a future assessor. And then the timing of this is also great because you can get it in the budget for next year, because it's gonna be a, you know, a one-time or, you know, a year and a half type expense. And you're gonna also have to backfill, if that position fills from in town, you're gonna have to backfill that position. That's also going to take time, so you can get all that stuff in motion. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I think you just gotta, but it's gotta get put into the budget, because we don't have the money to just fill it now. And I think it's too soon anyway, but.
Yeah,
But the timing of asking for it 2 years out is perfect.
exactly.
At the rate government can move, right? That's about the right amount of time.
Is there a date of retirement? Stated yet?
No,
Okay. It's a window.
there might be a date, but there's nothing concrete came in saying that the retirement,
It's not
it's
a
just
letter, but I
imminent.
think it's the end of next year. The end of next
Calendar or fiscal.
year. Yeah,
And 2025. Yeah, but so then you can, but that will also start cementing those plans. If they're asking for it, then you can ask for that as well. So that you can start putting your plan in motion to get to a certain place at a certain date. So, yeah.
An option would be also to find out from like MRI what a temporary skilled assessor would cost, or to recruit through them as well. We had success with that firm in particular. I feel more comfortable with someone with experience in that role that can answer questions and is willing to provide answers.
They have an excellent backstop to support the assessor's office now, the firm that we employ for many years has done a yeoman work with that. I mean, the assessor does a great job, and the board of assessors do a great job as well. And 2 years is a good window to start having this discussion, because there's a lot of moving pieces that have to happen if you're going to replace the assessor. How long has she been in that role?
30 years.
Yeah, a little while.
Yeah. Another good reason to maybe go outside.
That's right, we brought it up to review and discuss.
So I'm gonna carry this under old
Yeah,
business.
we'll carry it and we'll do the research and see what we come up with. Like you said, we got plenty of time. Well, not plenty.
We got time.
It goes faster than we know, so.
If we put it on the calendar,
Yeah.
we'll address it.
Next, we need to review the Assistant DPW Director job description.
This was, worked on with Randy. It would take the place, some of what Dick Grinnell did, as a special assistant. We're looking for, an assistant, public works, not a special assistant. And, we modified Dick's job description to match more of what Randy thought was necessary for the department.
And we discussed this the last time we met, which I realized was a long time ago, but we didn't have any issues with this one that I recall.
No, I think,
There were no changes since we last met.
no, I thought,
The one that
yeah,
we needed to come back to was the buildings and grounds.
yes.
I don't recall anything.
I don't recall anything on this either, so
I thought we had already done this,
I'm not sure that you.
but we hadn't seen the minutes yet, so we can't tell.
Well, go ahead. I'm sure that you loved it the first time or the second time, and
So I don't think there was anything to discuss here on this one.
I didn't see anything in the folder, but it's on my agenda, so we needed to at
it
least
is in the
address it.
folder again. That's true.
Oh, is it in the old stuff?
No, it's in the new business.
I don't even see it.
It's under new business after all department reports, sir.
There we go. So, next we have to do department head CAO reports. You want to update on anything?
No, I just, they're all in there. I go back up. If you had any questions, I kind of highlighted from some departments what I thought was important and, well, it's all important, but maybe some dates or something specific. I just went through them, so now I'm too far down. Typically, once a month, I will submit these to you and, you know, not necessarily take a lot of time to go over them one by one, but if you have any
If we
questions
have
about any of
questions, we
them,
come back.
then we can come back to it.
I must say it's excellent.
I like them.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good, great, that's my goal.
Yeah.
To stay informed.
I guess we are on to old business. Chapter 90 road decision. Randy,
Which again, I think we had.
We pretty much
played
had
numbers
finished
last time, so I think we're good there.
yeah,
I'm-
we pretty much made the decision, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we voted on it. It's done.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that comes in.
That's great.
Sewer finances and rates discussion.
Did we lose Randy? He was on.
He was
said
on,
gonna
but-
be-
I know,
There.
he's on vacation.
Oh, he's right there.
Is he on there?
There for a second.
How you doing?
Oh,
There he
is.
is.
Hello, Randy.
He's still awake. Still with us.
So we basically, like I said, we discussed this. So I think that's pretty good. The, chapter 90, did we?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah,
Do we-
he's next on the sewer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Randy, sewer rates and finances discussion.
Yeah, so we met last meeting, talked about, had a hard discussion about the sewer rates and I think the discussion where we need to focus is you know, what role and I guess how much is a town gonna contribute to the sewer budget in FY25 or FY26 and beyond. So what at the last letter I gave you some, you know, kind of preliminary projections. What I did here in this August 8th letter is I refined some of those projections and I gave you, I think there's 22 different scenarios based on varying rate increases for the three tiers, tier 1, 2, and 3. And I hope you can follow through and kind of see where, you know, where the rates are today, which is scenario 1. And then basically, you know, moving forward with various rate increases for each of those three tiers. And ultimately seeing, okay, if you implement that scenario, what do you need for the town subsidy to balance that budget the next fiscal year? So there's many other scenarios out there. I try to get a flavor of all the range. And I'm hoping that maybe you have some discussion amongst yourselves to kind of figure out where you want to be. And then also, at some point, we need to have a discussion with the finance committee. After our last meeting, I did meet with Mr. Didi. I gave him an update on our discussion, and he suggested having a full meeting amongst both the full boards of the finance and the select board to kind of detail this issue out further.
I think that's the right step.
Yep, agreed.
So we'll go then. So I guess we need to sort of.
So do you want to look at these individually, come up with some ideas and bring them all to that meeting, or you talk about some of the ideas today?
I think we should just have the discussion amongst everybody and see where everybody stands on this one. After talking to Randy in the past and Nicole, it's the way we're doing it now isn't sustainable. So nor do I've heard the discussions about the fairness of it all, and I'm gonna be honest, if you're not using it, it's not fair to continue this route. And not gonna be a popular thing to say, but I know this rate's gotta go up, and it ain't gonna be pretty, not by my considerations.
As a counter to the fairness argument, if you're using it, it's not fair that you're the only one paying for the weight of it.
How's
So
that?
I think it's, the only way to be fair is it is split on the total tax rate and the user.
No. I'll agree to disagree on that one.
I don't think you can put the gazillion,
When you move to Westfield, you hook up the sewer. Sewer's there, you don't have a choice. And I understand
Correct.
where
The
this
other
sits.
people don't have, some people who want to don't have a choice. They're gonna pay it on their tax bill. Those people who are on it didn't necessarily have a choice. It went by them. They had to hook in. They didn't have a choice. They can't be the only 800 entities, whether they're residences or businesses. They can't be the only 800 paying for the commitment, the entire town. It has to be.
I'm not saying it should be the entire commitment. I'm just saying there needs to be some work done on this.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna come right out and say it. I'd be looking at a 50% rate hike.
It's at least 20. It's at least
It's not a
15.
popular thing to say.
It's
I don't
at
care.
least 15, but there's ways to
I mean,
work with the tiers.
because I mean, you look at the tiers and the numbers Randy's got. To get to a number to me that's comfortable and that I think is fair across the board, you're looking at about a 50%. You know, that's about just under a $6 raise, 1,000. I know, I don't want to raise anybody's rates, but I mean, you can't continue at the subsidy rate that we've got when, and Randy said, the revenues can gonna continue to go down on the loans and whatnot, Randy, correct? The different.
Yeah, these projections will get us through FY, the next 2 fiscal years. And then after that, our projection is that our expenses are gonna increase.
Yeah,
which
and
will
does this
require
take
an
into
additional rate
consideration, I'm sorry. Does this take into consideration the 8% per year with Westfield?
It does, correct.
It does, okay.
But the rates, our user rates aren't the only factor in the equation. It's that user rate to Westfield that, again, I suggested we try to do something with cost as well.
Oh, we can try that.
Gonna have to.
I won't be the one trying it.
No, it'll be Randy and Nicole. That's the beauty of us. She has to do it.
I will not be involved in this.
But I don't know. Doug's got thoughts. He's holding them.
Well, I mean, we don't want to rehash everything we've talked about. We have 800 users on a system that's built for, you know, way more than that, right? And we have to buy down that infrastructure that we paid for, and the flow is not gonna support the rate infrastructure, so it's required a town. We've carried the sewers on a tax rate forever. We're gonna have to carry some portion on it for a long time. Now, yes, rates are gonna go up. And one other thing to think about was, you know, we've talked about getting another sewer project off the ground. Perhaps as you increase the rates to reduce the subsidy, you repurpose some of the subsidy towards the sewer project, toward some of the bond payment on a sewer project. And you start biting off pieces of it so that you can do it. I mean, these numbers are chump change compared to what a sewer project's gonna be, you know? And the fact is that town meeting has created this monster by doing phase 1 and phase 2 of the sewer project. The US RDA gave us low interest loans, then they were slightly less low interest loans. Now those are, maybe they're coming back again as what, you know, from some of the research I've done. And then maybe, you know, but they're probably still not gonna be as advantageous as they were. But I will also note, and I think I alluded to it at our previous meeting, but it was a while ago, so I don't remember. A lot of the sewer infrastructure went around the lakes. A lot of that sewer infrastructure around the lakes has benefited more than just those houses around the lakes. Look at the valuations of the properties that are around the lakes, especially those on the water and that are on the sewer, and what that's done for the lake and what that's done for property values vis-a-vis the property taxes that come in. So it's not possible. I don't even think it's possible, you know, looking at the scenarios, and I think Randy, God bless him, I think he sent us 25 scenarios for, it's pretty close to it, right? 22 scenarios on how to skin this cat with, you know, different numbers of the increase versus the town subsidy. But I don't see how you wean yourself off of the subsidy in any near-term future until you put more people on it. And by the way, we can't just say, oh, we're done with sewers, so go back and put a septic system in your yard. That's impossible. We have to try to get more people on it. I do not have the easy button, but I don't think it's also. It's not tenable, and we'd have to look at the overall, dollars that you're talking about here, because it's not insignificant dollars when you jack the rates.
No,
50%
no,
or
I would
60%,
have to see what the average
30%.
increase is, and I don't, like I said, I don't wanna hurt people, but. I mean, we're gonna continue. This is gonna continue snowballing.
Yep. As we paid, we paid down the bonds on the infrastructure that's out there. What's gonna be reduced is the betterments, as the people that have been paying us. The cost plus interest on the loan. To install sewers on their property, that's the betterment that's gonna go down, and then the flow rates from Westfield, which. We've agreed to disagree, but that's the deal that's been executed with Westfield. And went to town meeting and was approved, or it's an IMA, so it had to be approved. They kind of have us, and I think one other thing to do is we need to look at revenue, the revenue side of things for other infrastructure. That's in our town. That Westfield's paying us to utilize rights of way through the town of Southwick, right? And whether that's a negotiation piece for discussion, or it's a real factual thing, we need to look at that. The rail trail is an absolute asset, the linear park. There's a lot of entities that have stuff in the linear park, including our neighbors to the north. I don't know what they're paying us, but it obviously isn't enough. So we need to look at that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Period.
So. Nicole will try to coordinate some dates.
Okay.
For a meeting.
Job description for buildings and grounds supervisor.
So so we did a director position, which we wanted to make come closer to David's position. So I updated the job description accordingly. I'm happy to answer any questions, or want to keep the meeting moving and go forward with this during the day. Diane, if you have changes, questions.
I think my only real concern was the titling. I
Okay.
think the rate and demonstrated experience and so forth. So as long as those are
Yeah, there.
included in there, I'm good with it.
Okay.
There were wording changes.
You have to use a fax machine.
Yeah, still there.
It is.
Yes. I would not keep that out.
It is. So I'm
I
fine
had
with
to
that.
use one today.
Rotary dial phone on there somewhere.
All right, appointments, process and status.
We already talked about
Well, we
Well,
talked about the employee one, we still have the other.
we have all the other ones. I just want to complain that the time it takes to do this is completely unacceptable to me. And I don't understand why it's so difficult. And I feel like it's disrespectful to the boards and commissions that are sitting there waiting, and the volunteers that come forward, and we can't get our act together. So I don't know what we have to do to improve this going around, but I'd like to get the next one scheduled. I can give a list of all the new applicants to get in here next week if we can, when we meet, or when are we meeting? Is it next week?
26, I think.
What are we doing? What's today? This one, 26, if we can get. There's probably, what did I say, 7, 8, 9 new people interested, including the master plan implementation people. Can we get them all
I would be fine with that.
in one? Because we're not meeting Labor
What's the
Day
total?
either.
So let's get it taken care of.
I will get the list to me.
Sure, absolutely, because we don't have access to what you have.
You don't?
No. To this list.
Well, there's a problem we can resolve.
Lisa told me today that only you and Doug have access to
Alrighty.
it, so.
I don't have it. All right,
But I will get her the list
Okay.
tomorrow.
HSIC IMA for WG&E for the ISP.
Yep. ASAP. We are meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock. We're gonna have Whip City Fiber back in. We've been looking at some revenue projections and financial modeling. This has been a very deliberate, drawn-out process. As we enter the next phase of this where we're gonna be looking at expending real money and start to look at spending against the ARPA allocation and or drawing on the first bonding authorization from town. Once you take that step, you're committed. You're committed to all of it. And the committee wants to be and to report back to this board that they're on sound financial footing, that when we go and execute, that this is going to retire the bonds within the useful life of the project. And then at the end of 10 or 11 or 12 years, we go, okay, we don't want to do this anymore, but we paid down the bonds and no harm, no foul. Or we want to continue on because we need to redo things or revisit things because things have changed and we're in a position to expend more money. But we're going to have Whip City Fiber and member or two of the finance committee in just to go through the numbers. And then we want to come back to this board as the subcommittee, because it's just ad hoc advisory to this board with that opinion. And because, you know, I know I personally stood at town meeting when we asked for the $3 million and said, look, I don't want to be it's a cup of coffee a day, or it's, you know, this is nothing, you know, this is a significant amount of money. It's double-digit millions of dollars by the time we're all done. Can the revenues from it pay its own way and pay down its debt? And if it can't, we'll stop that. I don't think we're at that point. I think we're gonna be okay, but we want to be really, you know, much more sure than we are at this very moment. So we're gonna meet again this Thursday as a board, have our finance guys and have Whip City come in with a little bit more detailed knowledge of what other towns have done, including like West Springfield, that also had an incumbent, and Westfield themselves that had an incumbent provider. We don't think that the Hilltown reference is valid, because you have one choice of provider in those towns. It was, you know, Whip City, because they got a contract from the state heavily subsidized everything else, and then you sign up, they're sitting pretty, pay down their debt. Whip City's also done a masterful job of paying down their own debt in their own city with revenues from the other communities that they are operating in, which kudos to them for the foresight to even set up this operation. But we want to be sure as a steward of the taxpayers' money from the town. You know, and with all that we're doing, but this especially because it's a ginormous amount of money with, you know, there's some downside risk to it.
Yeah.
We think we're going to be successful. We want to be sure.
That sounds good.
Check, watch some of it.
What do you, Thursday at 6? Thursday at 6?
Yes. Now I don't know where it's going to be because where we always met is not available anymore. So probably maybe here. I don't know. In town hall.
Next. Marijuana dispensary. Next step is going to be completed. We're at that point. We're done with scoring things.
Yeah. Ready to make a decision?
We're ready to discuss it. I think we need to figure out how. I'm sorry to jump in. This has been,
This is discussion.
So I really like to have Diane lead the way here because she's done a lot of the work on the scoring. But I really want to think that we need to talk about, unless we think it's a non-issue, the 1,000-foot issue. Because I think we can create a problem depending on if we offer host agreements to enter into negotiation for a host agreement with two that would conflict, that we would create our own conflict with our own bylaw. So how do you resolve that?
Do you have a firm 1 and 2 in your mind?
I do.
Look at them and see if there are 2 that conflict. Jason, do you?
I have an idea which way I'm going, but this, you know, I do want to say something that I talked about last time. The interviews brought to light some things that, in my opinion, were not clearly spelled out in some of these things. And to me, the interview mattered, brought it a lot closer. Hasn't really changed where I came up with, but it definitely changed my, what. It would have definitely brought it in really, really tight. Again, I've talked about how I feel about interviews in certain aspects, so, but that's it. I'm ready to move forward at this point.
You have a number 1 and 2 choice? Where are they on the map? Do you know?
They wouldn't conflict.
Neither would mine, so I think we're ready to go.
Checking.
You go.
You have all three on here, or you only have the two?
No, I have all 3. This is 1. This is 2. And the other one is there, that one.
Sorry.
All right.
Remember when I was young, I could see.
I can see the glasses for something.
So this is. 1. 2.
And this lot 11 is the other one,
This is 660.
that church, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So these 2 are not a problem. This one.
You need 3 numbers. You need. I mean, you can. You need a distance from.
I didn't bring my book, so. Did you have the map I sent you? I think that's a different map.
But the one that was on the counter. Downstairs.
Probably. Did you send it by email? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got problems somewhere, you go, right? You need 3 numbers, right? You need the distance, just, you have 3 people in front of you. Haven and Cannabis Hut and Pioneer Valley, and Pioneer Valley and Haven. Then you have all your numbers.
Yep. Thanks, this one.
This one is 867. So that's, you have this one. Right, that's this one.
That is.
Cannabis Hut. And.
Yes, yeah, this is.
And then you need
Cannabis Hut.
this distance.
Yeah. So this one, I'm sorry, yeah, this one and this one, yeah, so this is,
This to this,
sorry, that's the.
that's this one. Right, and then this is. 2 feet.
Yes.
Right, so you need this distance here. Which obviously it's gonna be, if that's that, this is way less than that, this is on its face.
Yes, I was looking at this one to this one and this one to this one. Comply.
Isn't this the same thing? This is. This is Haven, right? It's in the, I thought you just wrote that this is the same place, this is. This is the Family Dollar location today. Right?
Yes.
Right, so that's Haven.
Oh, yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah, that is
Yes,
that, so
that's
this is
there.
867 to
And
that.
then this is greater, this is more than.
Yes, this one and this one, but then this one to this one is way less, just on its face, you could see it.
Correct.
Okay. So you have two potential. You'd have to look at what your ones and twos are, but this is a conflict, this is a conflict. This is probably not. A conflict. Maybe,
Correct,
and it's building to building, not lot to lot.
correct.
Hmm.
This is not the conflict.
Yeah.
Way beyond the 1,000.
Yeah, this to this,
Correct.
right. But this is, and then this is.
Correct.
So you have two conflicts.
Correct.
Okay,
But if you're 1 and 2 are not in conflict, there's no conflict.
oops.
Okay, so we have a conflict.
Yeah, I do. So I don't know how we would do it. So do you grant? I don't know that you've moved to move any of them, or do you move one and then you say we gotta figure out the legal
Well, we know
explanation on
we
the second?
have-
And by the way, I'm but one member of this board, and I have no idea where you guys are.
We know we have a social equity who gets the weighted score. And CCC expedited processing.
Mhm.
Which we said we were going to grant one of them.
Mhm.
We only have one of them.
But that doesn't affect our ranking. We still,
They did rank in the top.
right. Coming out of the interview, how did they? Well. Okay, well, just, why don't we, I'm not monopolizing your meeting, I'm just trying to get information here. So from our rankings, how did they come out? For the public,
Numerically?
yeah, 1, 2, 3,
Haven
4.
was number 1, 4.326. PVTC was number 2 at 4.273. And Cannabis Hut was number 3 at 3.914.
And 4?
That was Sunrise at 3.859.
Okay.
And our social equity one is Haven.
And there was another component to this one, no?
Number 3.
This one and this
Had
one,
an applicant.
Oh,
Preference?
she was, but she
Yes.
wasn't in our top 3
yeah,
that we were moving forward.
okay. Interesting. So you're saying that this one has to move forward based on that,
By our agreement, how we were gonna do it.
so then it's all over but the shouting for these two.
Correct.
And this one has no, this one does not, and this one had no other component to it.
I looked on the solutions and either one of them did not. I know they didn't, let's just look, that was one of the things I was looking at.
Correct.
I was trying to make my decision.
Any advice on as far as this issue?
No. I knew 1 and 4 had the extra components.
Mhm.
Right, that's.
Right,
But how to settle the issue,
As you
I mean,
said,
do we-
right now you have a conflict, is that what you're saying?
we have a distinct
Well,
conflict.
his number 2
Okay,
is with.
My personal too, but apparently, yeah,
My personal 2 are not,
so you're saying this,
so it's where are your personal 2?
well, we can't, we're in public, so we gotta just.
I already said mine wouldn't conflict.
So there we go. So I think. I think you gotta move for,
Barring distance, those are my personal two. Let me just say that. They were my 1 and 2.
well, barring distance, if barring everything else, this
Distance
is my,
wasn't an
yeah.
issue. My number 2 were Haven and PBTC.
And you're of like mine?
Like I said, the interviews did matter to me because it was,
Absolutely, absolutely.
you know. And I have my opinion on things, and I'm just gonna say nothing. I'm of the like mind as far as 1 and 2. I had the same 1 and 2.
And I do like 1 and 2 because they're both medical as well, which is an important factor. I think they offer different products, which doesn't make them the same in the community. I have a lot of other reasons if you,
Well, I mean, this really should be, I mean, we are a 3-member board.
Yep.
And I just think from, you did a lot of the heavy lifting on the score sheet setup and I did the scoring, I went through each one. And frankly, I kind of tried to take a blind eye to it, knowing but I wanted to score each application on its own.
absolutely, yep.
And then I wanted to go through this interview process. Kind of not looking at that either, we did have a robust discussion on it during the interview process as well. But
They also have, I'm sorry, they also have the heaviest local management input. Longest running and deepest rooted investment in the community. And they're all great applications. They were great. They're in roughly the same time frame for up and running. One is leasing, one is purchasing. Great community programs. Yeah, I tried to answer what all the naysayers that aren't gonna like it. I tried to address what their concerns would be, and these two kept coming out at the top. As a package, as a whole. And they're very different.
The kicker that pushed it one way for me was the community relationships. But I just want to say you guys have an amazing Cannabis Hut, folks. Your interview was amazing. Everybody had great interviews. Your interview was amazing.
Great
And
presentations.
depending on how these scores had come out, it could have pushed me one way or the other. This is why, and like I said, I wish I could have interviewed everybody. Wish maybe there was things that tweaked a little bit different, but it makes, you guys really, for me, I'm torn. But that's the way my numbers came out, and that's the way we agreed to kind of steer this. So that's where I am right now. I mean, we can take a vote, or we can, but at this point, I mean, we've dragged this out long enough. And Mr. Mogul, I'm not gonna, you're right to your two, absolutely, so,
Well, not really, because I think one of them's gonna get a license based on the equity, and we only had one equity applicant in front of us that we interviewed.
That's, and that was,
So that's,
part of the tough thing of the whole process is the way the state put some of this stuff in front of us, and then,
Well, in our own bylaws.
definitely with the distance thing, that threw a monkey
We
wrench
said,
into
we
it.
said that that bylaw was gonna be self-limiting by its nature as well. And if they wanna grow, that's gonna have to be 1,000 feet from any of these locations as well.
Oh,
It's
give,
any.
give the triple C 10 minutes. They'll change
It's
it.
any. I mean, unless it's co-located, but I don't think you can do that.
What are you looking for, Mr. Chairman?
I guess I'd be looking for a motion to, for the top two.
I do them one at a time. Because in
So-
case there's any discussion or anything else, you want to be able to proceed on entering into a host agreement with any one of these as we vote. Just my advice, I don't.
No,
go for it.
that's fair, makes sense. So I will make a motion to award the first post-community agreement negotiation to Haven.
We'll have to second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion. Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Thank you.
Doug Mogul, no.
Okay. And the second motion for a post-community agreement negotiation to go to Pioneer Valley Trading Company.
Doug Mogul will second the motion.
Roll call vote, Jason Peron, aye.
Van Gale, aye.
Doug Mogul, yes.
And there we be.
That's it.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for putting in for it. I know it's been a very interesting and crazy process, so. But at least we're at this point now and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Are we still waiting town council input on 61A, B?
We got something back.
I don't think that he necessarily understood what I was asking, and he was on
Thank you, 'cause I
vacation, so I
didn't think
really
so
need to
either.
have a verbal conversation with our attorney. And I also have a call into an MDR attorney, so
Perfect.
I wanna get it all, but he was on, Ben was on vacation last week and the week before, so I wasn't, and kind of takes a while to get back, but I'll make sure that I talk to him this week and have an answer to get this off of old business for the next meeting.
Very good.
I'm with that.
T-Mobile Hometown Grant, I'll be going to the, either in person or zooming into the Park and Rec. With the, Mr. Colombo, I believe his name is, with the, company that's gonna be. Proposing the mesh program to, provide the Wi-Fi. For the park, and then from that point forward, after we get everybody's, concerns. Done, myself and Kara are gonna finish up on the grant and send it out.
Good.
Last on our list right now is to select the master plan implementation subcommittee members.
So we'll invite those new
100%.
volunteers to the next one, I guess the
Next
question.
meeting, we interview them,
And then we'll figure out who of us is gonna be the select board person at that
correct?
same time. Okay.
Alright, that sounds good. I have no old business personally.
Oh, gosh, I forgot all about that. Can we go back to new business real quick?
I saw it and
Just,
rang in my head.
I just wanted to call out the open farm day, even though it was brought up in public comment, that is Sunday, 10 to 4. And I think there's maps downstairs someplace as well. And that's really all I had. There was a big agenda today.
Did anyone else have anything new that we wanted to discuss?
Under new business?
Yes, we
No.
didn't. We jumped ahead a little bit. I think why I was in a rush, maybe not a rush, but anxious to get some conclusion on some certain things.
Yeah. It was a heavy agenda.
There's no old business of it,
No.
Mr. Mogul.
I just have one. I was gonna carry the farm day under old business because we've talked about it extensively. I encourage everyone to visit the establishments in our town that are participating in the open farm day. And I wanted to relate back to the board. I did send an email to the chairman of the Agricultural Commission, Mr. Hanson, and I received a very wonderful and kind reply with an explanation for their thought process around what I had brought up under, report last week. And, I kind of thought that was the end of it. I will take, exception to a member of the Agricultural Commission. I think he might even be the vice chair, but to come on and say, well, I'm not talking about someone from the AgCom, this is just this, but I'm involved with Open Farm Day and I think this. As is his right to speak under public comment, as is my right as an elected select board member, to discuss this under old business. I like Mr. Fury, he's a good guy, his heart's in the right place. I thought that I had addressed this with the chairman. I sent it to him to be read at his board under public comment, and which was the proper way to address it. And I sent it as a select board member because I had vetted it or I had mentioned it in front of this board. But I still think that an activity that's being sponsored with taxpayer dollars and co-sponsored with our Economic Development Commission, I think our point's still valid. I have nothing against the interrelationships and the economic relationships that we have with, our neighbors to the west and the north and the south for that matter. And I get that we have, farmers and businesses that have locations in both. But I'll be honest that, part of this was a thinly veiled shot at one singular business in town, which was remedied the work of another select board member who I deeply appreciate their effort to take care of this. And I completely understand that hay from Southwick goes to Granville to make ice cream up there. I get it. And I encourage everyone to visit businesses all over the place. But I'm an elected selectman from the town of Southwick, and it's my job to represent the interests of the businesses in the town of Southwick that are participating in the Open Farm Day, and to keep the folks that come and visit our town to stay in town and have a meal or visit our shops and do whatever. So I'll stand by what we talked about.
And I'm
last
still
week.
agreeing with you.
And I appreciate that. I really do. So I'll get off my soapbox now so we can get out of here.
And as I said, if I'm gonna say it, there was never any clarification or discussion that I've ever heard about including other towns. Maybe that should have been more clearly discussed, but I agree with you.
If they want to expand it to Pioneer Valley Farm Day, great.
Well,
That makes sense.
I understand their interrelation between the.
Yep.
The regional, the whole regional aspect of it, but maybe that should have been stated at some point.
And to beat a dead horse, no farm pun intended.
Keep going.
Right. I mentioned last week, and I said it in my letter to Bert, how much I'm so looking forward to Open Farm Day, because I got to like a third of the places that we had in town last week. And to a person was lamenting that they couldn't get everywhere in Southwick. And now we're gonna make it have more and make it harder. I get the hours, they're gonna have 2 shifts of people and the hours are slightly longer, but they're asking all the businesses to step up and do more things to entertain people for longer. I never got out of the place at the south end for an hour and a half, and I was just talking to the owner and petting his dog, let alone a hayride and all this other stuff that they're trying to do this year. I think that, that was really my point of this whole thing. It wasn't to aggravate a business that's not in our town. But, from a budgeting perspective, we allocate money in our budget, taxpayer dollars in our budget to support this activity, and we wholeheartedly did it. Well, obviously, we put too much money behind it if we're having to go and spend it outside of our town. And, Economic Development, Committee, God bless them, they're doing yeoman work with the website and some of the other stuff. But as this is kind of a bit of a mission creep for them too. They should be trying to figure out how we're gonna get more people into the town of Southwick, participate in the events in our town, and then have people stay here after the thing. We did that, they did a great job with the motocross and a couple other events with signage and drawing people to other attractions and things in our business. Again, I'll get off my soapbox, but it really frosted me tonight to have a member of that committee after, we had a discussion with the chairman, how this was gonna go, and then to purport that, I'm not speaking as a member of the commission, but he was, obviously involved in the planning and implementation of this event. And like I said, I really respect Mr. Fury. We've done a lot of things together. We've had some great conversations together. I guess we'll just agree to disagree on this one particular issue. Okay,
Farm parade is open to all towns, just wanted to get it out there so there's no.
and how many tax dollars are involved in the expenditure on the farm parade?
Zero, sir, and we actually donate money back.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have executive session?
We do not.
We do not. Nadine, do you have anything old? Nicole, anything old?
I would like, just for our next meeting, please, can we schedule executive session just to discuss pending litigation?
Yes.
We can't do, it wasn't posted for this meeting, so
No,
we
right.
need to do that.
Okay.
Please.
And that is about it. So I would be looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote, Jason Perron.
Thank
aye.
you.
Doug Mogul, absolutely.
Goes back to.